The words fourth order and fifth order slightly accelerated Tong He's breathing. Clenching his fists, he replied decisively, "Good. Grandson will listen to grandpa." After saying so, he disappeared without a trace. Shopkeeper Tong turned to look in the direction of Tong He's departure and turned again to look in the direction the numerous open heaven realm masters in Void Land were gazing. Stroking his gray beard, his eyes flashed wildly while he considered his current situation. Despite what he said to his grandson, he was actually a little worried, for fear that, as his grandson said, Void Land would arrange for someone to raise the price to eventually win the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill back into its own hands. But as he said, this was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they succeeded, then the grandfather-grandson pair would soar in the future, and they would no longer have to struggle at the bottom of the world. If one did not grasp the opportunities right in front of them, one could only remain poor. A large number of open heaven realm masters followed behind Yang Kai as he surveyed the Star City, allowing his identity to quickly spread, drawing the attention of all remaining cultivators in the Star City. People gathered together and whispered from time to time, pointing in his direction. At this point, many youths cast their eyes at him, admiration rising in their hearts. This was what a real man should be like. They were Emperor Realm cultivators too. But while they were toiling away for a few trivial open heaven pills, Yang Kai was already sitting high above, commanding many open heaven realm masters. The difference was simply overwhelming. Sect Master, are you really going to auction that Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill just to boost momentum? Lu Shui, who was next to Yang Kai, asked softly. Yang Kai nodded. Right now, we can only rely on the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill, so naturally we will need to raise some popularity. He mentioned this plan before, so no one was surprised. But there were advantages as well as disadvantages to taking out the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pills. The advantages included a large and rapid boost to the popularity of the Star City, while the biggest disadvantage was provoking greed from other great forces. However, whenever potential gains appeared, risks would as well. If Shopkeeper Tong had the courage to gamble his life savings, how could Yang Kai not have the same courage? Moreover, Void Land had now even migrated its headquarters, and with the protection of two mature divine spirits, it more or less had some ability to defend itself. But with just 3 days, there will be no time to publicize the event. I'm afraid that only the cultivators who are still in this Star City will participate in the auction when the time comes. Lu Shui was worried we won't be able to fetch a high price to auction an extinct treasure such as the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill. It was necessary to start an advertising campaign a long time in advance to give the major forces time to gather funds, so as to obtain the maximum profit. Even the pill auction back in Thousand Bird Star City was advertised a year or two in advance, and with the addition of the opening of Blood Monster Cave Heaven, many masters gathered in Thousand Birds the Star City to profit from that. It was really hasty for Yang Kai to announce an auction just 3 days before it took place. Yang Kai, however, just smiled. The price doesn't matter. A Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill may be quite precious to others, but to Void Land it's nothing rare. Yang Kai had given each of the more than 300 cultivators from Abundance City a Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill to assist their advancement to the Open Heaven Realm, including those who would only break through to the Second Order Open Heaven Realm. What did it matter if one was auctioned now? It was not necessarily a bad thing to lose profit sometimes. It could be imagined that after this auction was over, Void Land would no longer need to deliberately promote itself because the news of this auction would spread like wildfire throughout every great territory in the outer universe. By then, there was no need to worry about the popularity of Void Star City. Lu Shui pondered about it for a while, and it seemed to make sense, so she did not say anything more. The Star City was not too large, so the inspection was soon completed. The representatives of the 7 third-class great forces, including Golden Light Dock and Soaring Crane Sect, had also heard of Yang Kai's arrival and quickly came to greet him. Yang Kai naturally showed them a welcoming attitude and appropriate respect, allowing them to let out a sigh of relief. As subordinate sects of Void Land, and being located in the same great territory, they lived and died at Void Land's whim. Logically speaking, when Void Land encountered a crisis, they should have mobilized to help. But they did nothing at the time. This was also human nature. The strongest cultivators in these 7 great forces were just Third Order Open Heaven Realm Masters. Given the situation at the time, trying to intervene would be akin to trying to break a stone with an egg. If they were unlucky, their entire sect could be annihilated. The 100-sect alliance was hundreds of times more powerful than them, so how could they possibly stick their necks out? Yang Kai knew their difficulties and naturally would not hold them accountable. Still, they were afraid that Voidland would settle accounts after the incident was resolved. So after receiving the order from Yang Kai, they had all contributed large pieces of spirit land from their headquarters and busied themselves with the expansion of the scale of the Star City. Yang Kai surveyed the work and soon calculated that the Star City's landmass had now expanded to more than 5 times its original size. Although it was still not as good as Thousand Bird Star City, it was not far off. With such a vast area, the scarce population in the Star City became even more apparent. However, this was not a big deal. As long as Yang Kai's plans for the Star City came to fruition, it would not be long before every inch of Void Star City would become priceless. Yang Kai had stayed in Thousand Bird Star City for a while, so he had a deep understanding that even in such a large star city, the annual rent for a store located in a good location was extremely high. So, the current vacancy of Void Star City was not to be underestimated because every bit of land here would soon bring enormous benefits to Voidland. This place would surely become a treasure trove that continued to churn out open heaven pills for Voidland, providing the long-term funding for its development. Elder Chin, Yang Kai called out. Fatty Chin immediately stepped forward and replied respectfully, "Subordinate is here. What are your orders, sir?" Yang Kai pointed ahead and gave his command, "Take some people with you to record all the shopkeepers who own stores in the Star City. Contact them and tell them that Void Star City will undergo a complete reconstruction, so all the original buildings will be leveled. Reassure them that Voidland will compensate them with a new store in the same location as their previous one and they will not suffer any financial losses." "Yes." Chintian Fatty responded quickly and brought some people with him to carry out this task. In order for Void Star City to develop properly, it needed better planning. Even if there was no compensation, these shopkeepers wouldn't dare to complain, not to mention that they would be compensated with a new store in the original site. "Yun Xinghua," Yang Kai called out again. Yun Xinghua straightened his back, took 2 steps forward and cupped his fist. "Subordinate is here." Yang Kai tapped his foot. "Build a grand auction house in this spot. You will be solely responsible for this matter." This was the very center of the entire Star City, the best location in the land. As this auction house would be directly affiliated with Voidland, it naturally had to occupy the spot. Yun Xinghua was taken aback, but he accepted the order sonorously. "Rest assured, sir. This subordinate will not fail." After a pause, he added, "Sir, what are the requirements for this auction house?" Yang Kai thought for a while before speaking. "It needs to be large enough to accommodate 10,000 comfortably. And you can go back to the headquarters to ask Yuhi for her input." Yun Xinghua had only broken through to the 4th Order Open Heaven realm recently. As his strength was somewhat low, his knowledge and experience were obviously not comparable to Yuhi's. It would be much better if Yuhi could give him some advice. Yun Xinghua immediately accepted the order and led a group of his subordinates straight to Voidland. He was currently stuck with by she playing chess, unable to extricate herself, so she was in need of rescue. "Elder Mo," Yang Kai called again. Mo Mei responded, "Subordinate is here." Yang Kai turned his head and looked at her with a smile. "The blueprint of the Star City's construction is your duty now. I want this completed in the shortest possible time. Once plans are finalized, begin construction immediately." Mo Mei laughed lightly. "This is a big project." Yang Kai assured her all 600,000 disciples in Voidland are at your disposal. If you need anyone's help, you may transfer them as you wish. If you need materials, consult with second manager. Mo Mei saluted elegantly. "I have received the order and will definitely live up to the sect master's expectations." As soon as everything was given their assignments, Yang Kai headed back to Voidland, allowing the resurrection of the Star City to begin. The representatives of the 7 subordinate sects led the disciples of their respective forces to expand the scale of the Star City with great enthusiasm, so it would not be long before the project was completed. At the same time, Chen Tianfei led a group of people to convene the remaining shopkeepers still in the Star City and explained to them the plans made by Voidland. All the shopkeepers agreed without a single refusal. For one who had the courage to object, Voidland's strength was overwhelming, and Chen Tianfei, who was right in front of them, had a fourth-order open heaven realm cultivation. For another, this was a good deal for them. They were getting new shops without needing to pay for them. All they had to do was to sit back and wait. Naturally, there was no need to object. For those reasons, Chun Tianfei's duties were progressing very smoothly. Yun Xinghua and his subordinates found Yuhi, and together they began brainstorming various matters regarding the auction house, which was going to be built in the very center of the Star City. Yuhi had been to many places over the years and participated in numerous auctions, so she had no trouble providing some ideas and references. Momei, after convening with Bianyu Qing, brought 30,000 disciples from Void Land to carry out large-scale construction work across the Star City. Neat rows of houses were quickly assembled, and streets wide enough to accommodate 20 people walking side by side were paved. Golden Light Dock and the other subordinate sects also took the initiative to contribute to the construction process once they were done expanding the Spirit Province. Although the number of people was not large, it was the intention that mattered. The entire Star City was filled with activity. Shopkeeper Tong and the others had been living without a fixed place for the past 2 days, as there really was nowhere for them to stay after their shops were leveled. As such, these shopkeepers gathered either in groups of 3 or 5 to spectate the rapidly rising buildings in the Star City, excitement filling their hearts. At this moment, they no longer had any doubt about their decision to remain. They initially had only stayed because they had nowhere else to go, but no one knew that it would turn out to be such a huge blessing in disguise. Void Star City was not thriving yet because it was not built up, and its reputation has yet to be established. However, when the time came, this place would definitely prosper. Shopkeeper Tong. A voice reached Shopkeeper Tong, who turned his head to look. He smiled slightly and cupped his fist in return when he recognized it was an acquaintance, Shopkeeper Jean. Shopkeeper Jean was also an elderly man. Both he and Shopkeeper Tong were second-order open heaven realm masters and were both unfortunate cultivators. They had always been at the bottom of the 3,000 worlds, struggling and striving for every small profit, exerting themselves for a mere dozen open heaven pills. But now both of them looked radiant, beaming and buoyant in spirits. If Shopkeeper Tong could see the bright future of Void Star City, how could Shopkeeper Jean not see it too? Now, all they needed to do was wait for the popularity of Void Star City to rise before getting back to work. What is it, Shopkeeper Jean? Shopkeeper Tong asked while wondering. This old fox always only appears when there is something that could benefit him. Both of them had been doing business in the Star City and were fond of each other's character after having dealt with each other on numerous occasions. Shopkeeper Jean chuckled. This Jean is here to congratulate Shopkeeper Tong. Shopkeeper Tong snickered in response. What is there to congratulate? Shopkeeper Jean replied. Void Land's doing something big, and the Star City is going to be promising in the future. As part of the group who stayed behind, we will naturally be the first to reap the benefits. Isn't this something worth congratulating? Congratulations to you too then. Didn't Shopkeeper Jean stay behind as well? Shopkeeper Jean sighed. I was forced to stay, but I didn't expect it to be a blessing in disguise. When Shopkeeper Sun and the others find out, they will probably rot in regret. The mentioned Shopkeeper Sun was one of the shopkeepers who escaped from the Star City as soon as the situation in Void Land deteriorated. It was truly expected that such a drastic change in circumstances would happen in Void territory. What's meant to be will be, it can't be forced if it's not. Shopkeeper Tong chuckled. Shopkeeper Jean pointed to the bustling construction activity in the Star City in front of them. Shopkeeper Tong. This Jean probed Senior Chun earlier. The remaining shopkeepers like you and I can get a new shop lot at our original site. On top of that, we're not required to pay rent. In other words, the shops will be yours and mine in the future, and no one can take them away. Shopkeeper Tong was overjoyed when he heard this. Is this really true? Shopkeeper Jean nodded. It's absolutely true. This is what Sir Chun Tianfei said. That's really great. Shopkeeper Tong clenched his fists tightly. Although he managed to open a shop here before, he was only renting the space and didn't own it. Now that Voidland had rewarded them all with new stores that belonged to them, it was indeed great news. Whether they would operate the shops themselves or simply rent out the space, it was guaranteed to make a profit. After pondering for a while, Shopkeeper Tong asked, What about Shopkeeper's son and the others? Shopkeeper Jean sneered. Shopkeeper's son and the others left the moment the Star City fell into troubled times. Do you think they'll have a share of the shops even if they come back? Shopkeeper Tong nodded when he heard the words, Void True Monarch is indeed fair with rewards and punishments. Regardless of whether they stayed back intentionally or were simply forced to. They stayed in the Star City and maintained its remaining population. That was why Voidland was willing to give them a new store. As for those who abandoned them, why would Voidland care about their interests? Shopkeeper Jean added, now Void Star City has expanded to more than 5 times its original size, with plentiful shops and grand architecture as well as immaculate organization. It can be imagined that the Star City will definitely be very popular in the future. And every inch of this place will definitely be worth a fortune. Shopkeeper Jean is right. Shopkeeper Tong nodded in agreement. Shopkeeper Jean turned his head to look at him. Shopkeeper Tong, you and I are both people without any backing. Back then all I could do was some small business. It's rare to have an opportunity like this. So doesn't Shopkeeper Tong want to do something big? Shopkeeper Tong frowned slightly. Both of us have no connections nor any backing. How do we do something big? Shopkeeper Jean balled up his fist. As long as we have capital, we can naturally do something big. Just with the funds you and I have on hand, even if we occupy a store, it's hard to be too ambitious. We'll probably just continue dealing in small trades. Shopkeeper Tong frowned and sighed. What Brother Jean said is exactly what this old man has been worried about these days. Whatever plan it is, capital is still the problem. Shopkeeper Jin's eyes blazed. It's easy to get the capital. It just depends if Brother Tong is willing to take a gamble with me. Shopkeeper Tong's eyes lit up. Does Brother Jean mean tomorrow will be the first auction of Void Star City? Void True Monarch said it himself that they will be auctioning a heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill. This is our chance. After Shopkeeper Jean finished speaking, he gave Shopkeeper Tong a meaningful look. Brother Tong, I know you've been selling your entire inventory over the past 2 days at any cost. Don't tell me that you have no plans for the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill. Shopkeeper Tong silently cursed the cunning old fox. He was able to catch a clue as soon as a move was made. It was pointless to deny it now, so Shopkeeper Tong simply nodded and admitted, Good, this Tong does have some plans for the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill, but this pill is precious and this Tong is low on funds, so I'm just doing my best and leaving the rest to destiny. Shopkeeper Jean smiled slightly. How about we work together? Shopkeeper Tong was moved when he heard the words, How shall we cooperate? Neither of us has a lot of funds. At least not enough to compete with the few big shopkeepers still remaining in the Star City. If they participate in the auction, you and I may not be able to succeed. Since that's the case, why don't we pool all of our funds together and give it our all? It would be excellent if we succeeded, and we'll just accept fate if we don't. We'll resell the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill at the right time when the price is right, then split the profit equally between the two of us. Shopkeeper Tong frowned deeply, struggling with his thoughts. Shopkeeper Jean stood by and waited quietly without interrupting. He knew that Shopkeeper Tong would not reject his proposal. After all, it was a decision that was beneficial to both parties, unless Shopkeeper Tong had enough money to triumph over other competitors without his aid. Sure enough, after a while, Shopkeeper Tong looked up decisively. Good. Let's do it together. After saying that, he raised his palm forward, and Shopkeeper Jean raised his own palm to meet his. After 3 shakes, the 2 old foxes grinned knowingly. The auction was held as scheduled without any publicity or marketing campaign, the only participants being the few cultivators who were still stranded in the Star City. There were not many people, a few thousand at most, of which some 40 to 50 were low-rank open heaven realm masters, with only a handful being third order and the rest all weaker. The Void Auction House was still under construction, and Yang Kai's requirements were not low. Yun Xinghua was naturally not able to finish the construction within 3 days. Therefore, the auction was held in the original auction house of the Star City. Although Void Star City did have its own auction house, that didn't mean other great forces didn't have one. No one knew which great force owned this particular auction house, but it was already empty now, so Voidland did not need the consent of others to requisition it. Although the number of people who attended the auction was small, it was extremely lively. Void True Monarch had previously said that the auction item was a heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill, but no one had seen such a rare spirit pill before, so they all worried whether Voidland really had such a precious treasure. And now was time to verify their doubts. Whether what Void True Monarch said was true or false would be revealed today. Shopkeeper Jean and Shopkeeper Tong sat together, their heads leaning in together from time to time, while looking around silently observing potential opponents. It did not take long before the auction stage lit up, the lights converging on a beautiful silhouette that was slowly making its way onto the platform. The commotion in the audience suddenly died down as everyone turned their eyes to the stage to see that the person who stepped on the platform was a slender woman with a beautiful face, looking no more than 30 years old, dressed in a light blue dress. Many in the audience stiffened at the sight of this woman, not because of her beauty, but because of her shocking identity. Over the past few days, they had also come to be more familiar with the masters of Voidland, so this woman was readily recognized as soon as she appeared. She was an elder of Voidland named Lu Shui with a fifth-order open heaven realm cultivation. Those who participated in the auction were at best third-order masters. In normal times, how would they dare stare at a fifth-order open heaven realm master so recklessly? However, now they were given a chance to look at one all they wished. Lu Shui felt a little lightheaded and her chest suddenly became tight. She was forced to take up this task. Although she was a former manager of Sword Pavilion, she had never hosted an auction before. Among all the Open Heaven Realm Masters in Voidland, the cultivators of Abundant City had never participated in an auction ever, and had no clue on the auctioning procedure at all. Chun Tianfei, Yun Xinghua, and the others who were good at administrative and public works were all swamped with their own tasks, so Lu Shui was the only suitable candidate to be the auctioneer. Fortunately, although she had never hosted an auction before, she had participated in many. Besides, there was no need to raise enthusiasm or rile up the crowd for this auction, so it was not a difficult task. She took a deep breath and thought about how she could crush everyone in front of her with a snort, allowing her nerves to quickly calm down. Lu Shui had a somewhat aloof personality, so she did not say much and just immediately started the auction. Since it was an auction, they could not possibly be auctioning off just a single heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill. Voidland had also prepared some other items suitable for the cultivators in the audience. Voidland had harvested plenty of loot when the 100 Sect Alliance was wiped out, so it was just right to take some small things out to meet some of the auctioning demands. This was a unique auction because all the items, regardless of their value, had a reserve price of one open heaven pill. Many cultivators were ecstatic when they found this out and did not hesitate to increase the price. However, the financial resources of the people here were limited, and no matter how much they increased the price, no item exceeded 1,000 open heaven pills so far, with most selling for around 100 or so. No matter how one looked at it, this auction was a big loss for Voidland because the market value of every auctioned item was far more than it was auctioned off for. However, everyone knew that Voidland was willing to take a temporary loss to reap a long-term gain. The objective today was to raise the Star City's popularity. Therefore, it was understandable to take a small financial loss. Fortunately, since all the items were essentially a steal, even if Lu Shui did not say much, the crowd was incredibly fired up and the bidding audience was not mellow at all. For these people, no matter what they bid for, they were guaranteed to make a profit. All they needed to do was wait a little while before reselling these items. Auction items were quickly displayed and sold under the hammer. An hour later, Lu Shui announced, "The next item is our finale for today's auction. I hope you won't be disappointed." Silence fell as everyone in the auction house immediately straightened their backs. It was so silent that needles could be heard falling on the ground, as they all knew the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill was coming. Shopkeeper Tong and Shopkeeper Jean met each other's eyes and sat up involuntarily, staring at the platform unblinkingly. On the auction stage, a woman who appeared to be a maid walked up with a tray in her hand and a smile on her face and stopped beside Lu Shui. The tray was covered with a red cloth, obscuring what lay beneath from the prying eyes below. Lu Shui raised her hand to remove the red cloth, revealing to everyone a jade bottle. Lu Shui's crisp voice resounded throughout the entire auction house. A heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill. It can help one to comprehend the essence of splitting heaven and earth apart when a cultivator is attempting to break through to the open heaven realm. thereby greatly improving the chances of one completing the process successfully. With the complement of this spirit pill, as long as one's aptitude is not terrible, they can definitely advance to the open heaven realm. The reserve price is 1 open heaven pill, and there is no limit on the increase in price. Please. After saying that, Lu Shui stood on the auction platform and said no more. Contrary to the previous scene where all kinds of items were auctioned and everyone responded heatedly, vying to increase the price, the appearance of this final item drew no bids. Everyone just stared at Lu Shui blankly, unable to believe their own ears. Shopkeeper Tong and shopkeeper Jean too looked at each other, almost thinking that they had heard it wrong. The starting bid of a heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill is 1 open heaven pill. Although all the previous items started from 1 open heaven pill with no exception, this was the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill that had long since vanished from the 3,000 worlds. Was its reserve price really just 1 open heaven pill? The information was so shocking that no one could open their mouth to start bidding, lest they desecrate the precious spirit pill with their lowly bids. The auction house fell into a quaint silence for a while before the sound of rapid breathing began filling the air. Lu Shui, who was standing on the stage, was a little stunned, thinking that she might have not explained clearly. How had the atmosphere, which was so heated earlier, suddenly turned so quiet? Suddenly, a voice asked weakly, "Elder Lu, may I ask if the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill of your noble sect really has an opening price of 1 open heaven pill?" Lu Shui said lightly, "Yes." The man hesitated, then asked again, "But the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill is such an extremely precious thing. How could it only start from 1 open heaven pill?" "Elder Lu, please don't kid with us. We have low cultivation, and our knowledge is very limited. So none of us have ever seen such a spirit pill before. If one had seen it before, there was essentially no way to distinguish its authenticity. And just how many were there in the 3,000 worlds who had actually seen a heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill before?" Although this man did not finish what he wanted to say, many quick-witted cultivators present understood what he meant. This guy was speculating if Voidland had fabricated a counterfeit spirit pill to pass it off as a heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill. However, he did not dare to say so outright and was just beating around the bush. Shopkeeper Tong sneered in his heart when he heard this. The person who said this really was stupid. The reason Voidland was willing to take such a massive loss in this auction was all to create publicity for their star city. Were not all of the previous auction items sold at a loss too? Although it was a bit bizarre that the starting price of the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill was only 1 open heaven pill, Voidland had the capacity and daring to do so. On top of that, this was the first time Voidland held an auction. If they really did auction a counterfeit item, their reputation would be forever ruined. Who would come to support them in the future if they did such a despicable deed? Therefore, regardless of the oddity of the situation, the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill should not be fake. On the auction stage, Lu Shui looked in the direction of the man and replied, "This queen is here to preside over the auction under Sect Master's direct order. This heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill was bestowed to me by the Sect Master, who refined it personally. Many open heaven realm masters in Voidland have also benefited from such spirit pills. If anyone thinks this pill is inappropriate in any way, they don't have to participate in the auction. Please begin bidding." Shopkeeper Jean cleared his throat and shouted, "This old master offers 1,000 open heaven pills. Not to mention 1,000 open heaven pills, this heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill was possibly worth 10 million open heaven pills." Shopkeeper Jean naturally did not expect to get the spirit pill with this bid, but he took the initiative to start the process. For one, he wanted to test the waters. For another, it was to show favor to Voidland. It was up to Voidland, however, if they saw through his intentions. In the previous auctions, the highest price an item was sold for was just over 1,000 open heaven pills. The price Shopkeeper Jean offered was just a fraction of the true value of the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill, but it was still reasonable in this strange situation. Just as he finished speaking though, voices exploded from all directions in the auction house, filled with cultivators shouting their bids for the item. In just 3 breaths, the price had already exceeded 10,000 open heaven pills and was continuing to rise at an extremely rapid rate. Shopkeeper Jean and Shopkeeper Tong turned their heads from time to time to look in the direction of the other bidders, observing the reactions and expressions of these potential opponents, inferring their limits. The two old foxes were waiting for everyone to exhaust themselves before jumping out to make the final call. The atmosphere of the auction house suddenly became scorching hot. People were shouting their prices over each other because their previous bids were quickly outdone. 20 breaths later, the price of the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill had exceeded 100,000 open heaven pills. At this point, there were only 3 people left in the competition. These 3 people were undoubtedly shopkeepers in the Star City. When it reached 120,000, there were only 2 people left. However, these 2 were obviously approaching their limits. Each increase in price was not high, and they were gnashing their teeth each time they offered a new bid, as if they had a deep hatred for the other party. Shopkeeper Tong and Shopkeeper Jean looked at each other and nodded lightly. They had been holding back for the right timing to make a move, and it had finally arrived. The 2 had been observing from the sidelines, so they had a very detailed grasp and judgment of the situation. This was a good opportunity to make a move. 130,000. Shopkeeper Jean called out decisively. This time, he added 10,000 open heaven pills all at once, which for the people present was not a small number. In the crowd, a cultivator turned his head angrily at him with his eyes red. Shopkeeper Jean, you? Shopkeeper Jean cupped his fist towards him with a smile. Shopkeeper Zhou, please excuse me. Shopkeeper Zhou ground his teeth for a while before shouting decisively. 133,000. 140,000. Shopkeeper Jean remained calm and relaxed. Shopkeeper Zhou's initially straight back slumped, and he released a deep sigh as he shook his head. On the auction stage, Lu Shui waited for a moment, but seeing that no one raised the price, after 3 breaths, the hammer finalized the deal. Shopkeeper Jin's and Shopkeeper Tong's tightly clenched fists finally loosened as they both grinned wildly. We did it. We really did it. At this moment, Shopkeeper Tong felt extremely fortunate that he chose to partner with Shopkeeper Jean. Otherwise, he would not have been able to win the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill with his limited financial resources. At the very least, Shopkeeper Zhou was much wealthier than he was. A spirit pill that was worth tens of millions of open heaven pills was now actually won by 2 old foxes for a mere 140,000 open heaven pills. Such a lucrative trade was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The reason was that the cultivators remaining in the Star City were all from humble backgrounds and had limited financial resources. The people who really had the means and resources had already escaped. Otherwise, they would not have the chance to grab such a great deal. Now, although both of them have sold most of their belongings for cheap and could not do any business in the near future, as long as they waited for the right opportunity, they could resell the spirit pill for millions. Lu Shui's voice once again rang out. Many thanks to all of you for your support this time. Though this auction has ended for today, in 3 months' time, Voidland will be holding another auction, where another Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill will be auctioned. It will be like this every 3 months thereafter. After saying that, Lu Shui turned around and walked down. In the auction house, many cultivators were stunned for a while, followed by a loud commotion. There would be another auction in Void Star City in 3 months, and there would also be another Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill sold every 3 months from now on. In other words, every 3 months, Voidland would be auctioning off a Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill. Simply astonishing. Many had made a large profit today, but they still could not help feeling moved at the news of another auction in 3 months. There were not many opportunities like this for them to take advantage of a great force. If one missed it this time, one still may have another chance, but if one did not grasp the chance, it would be impossible when Void Star City truly flourished. Shopkeeper Jean and Shopkeeper Tong stood there. The smiles on their faces suddenly stiffened. After a while, Shopkeeper Tong took in a deep breath. Just how many Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pills does Voidland have? If they were willing to take one out for auction every 3 months, it meant that they had enough to spare. But wasn't this spirit pill said to already be extinct? It was precisely because of this that the value was high. If it was available everywhere, it would not be worth much. Shopkeeper Jin's eyes flashed and speculated. Elder Lu just said that the spirit pill was refined by Void True Monarch himself. It seems that Voidland does have a lot in stock. Then our spirit pill, Shopkeeper Tong's initial joy turned into worry. Shopkeeper Jean chuckled, "What are you worried about? As long as this kind of spirit pill is not released in massive quantities, its value will never decrease. Voidland is clearly planning to use these heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills to draw in people to their star city, so they will naturally only release a limited supply. In other words, we made a lot of money this time." Shopkeeper Tong thought for a while after hearing the words, then cracked into a smile. "You're right, Voidland will never let the value of the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill fall unless they want to sabotage themselves. Let's go." Shopkeeper Jean stood up. "Let's collect our spirit pill. I've never seen such a precious thing before in my life after all." As they walked out of the auction house, both Shopkeeper Tong and Shopkeeper Jean trembled, unable to contain their excitement. A jade bottle was held in Shopkeeper Jin's hand containing the rare heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill. Recalling what Elder Lu just said, Shopkeeper Jean praised admirably, "Voidland really is efficient and upright." Shopkeeper Tong stroked his beard and nodded, "There's no more need for you and I to worry. We just need to wait for the right opportunity." When the two went to Elder Lu to retrieve the spirit pill, she assured them that before the two resold the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill, their safety and that of their families would be guaranteed by Voidland. In addition, if they found a buyer in the future, if necessary, they could request Voidland to act as an intermediary to ensure impartiality, and that the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill was sold at a reasonable price. The two shopkeepers were ecstatic to hear the news. Earlier, they were a little worried that after obtaining the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill, it would be hard to fend off greedy masters who intended to bully or outright rob them with their meager abilities. Now, with Elder Lu's assurance, what else did they need to worry about? Who in Void Star City would dare to cross Voidland? Voidland obviously took their concerns into account, so they took the initiative, and Voidland also knew that even if they won the spirit pill, they would not use it themselves. They surely would be selling off such a precious item for a good price. Logically speaking, after the two won the spirit pill, Voidland bore no responsibilities to them, but Voidland's initiative to give them such a guarantee truly bought their trust and respect. Shopkeeper Jean handed the jade bottle in his hand to Shopkeeper Tong and said, "Brother Tong, according to the agreement, you will be in charge of guarding it for the first month." Shopkeeper Tong smiled when he heard the words, "There's no need. Brother Jean can keep the spirit pill by his side." If there was no guarantee from Voidland, Shopkeeper Tong would have to be a little wary of whether Shopkeeper Jean would pocket all the profits himself. But now he no longer needed to worry about this at all, unless Shopkeeper Jean was willing to take the risk of offending Voidland. Safeguarding the spirit pill also meant that he had to bear the risk of losing it. So why would Shopkeeper Tong take up such an arduous but fruitless task? That was the reason for his forthrightness. They were both cunning old foxes, so how could Shopkeeper Jean not know what Shopkeeper Tong was thinking? Still, he just laughed and nodded. "Brother Tong, you really are too lazy. Good, I'll keep the spirit pill. It'll probably be sold off after a few months, and this old master is not going anywhere during this time." Shopkeeper Tong smiled and cupped his fists. "Many thanks for your hard work, Brother Jean." After the first auction of Void Star City, many cultivators left one after another in a hurry, especially the shopkeepers. It was unknown where they went. The already deserted Star City was left with even fewer occupants now. But the 30,000 Void Land disciples continued the reconstruction projects without pause. Construction done by cultivators was indeed different from mortals. There were obvious changes in the Star City every day, and in less than a month, the rebuilding of the entire Star City was completed. Even the huge auction house ordered by Yang Kai was completed through the joint efforts of Yun Xinghua and Yu He. According to Yang Kai's request, the size of this auction house should be no less than that of Red Cloud's auction house back in Thousand Bird Star City, which meant it could comfortably accommodate 10,000 people. The huge auction house located in the very center of the Star City would soon become one of its most important landmarks. Yang Kai personally inscribed Void Auction House onto a giant plaque that hung proudly above the main entrance of the auction house. Namen Dejun had been working nonstop recently. The newly expanded and reconstructed Star City naturally needed a new grand array. That said, his accomplishments in the Tao of Arrays could not match that of Grandmaster Wu Liang's, and Voidland was no longer as resource-rich as before. so it was impossible to create another 9 heavenly layers grand array. However, Namen Dejun had been shadowing Grandmaster Wu Liang for a few months, so with his exceptional talent in Tao of Spirit arrays, it was not difficult to arrange some decent arrays in the Star City. Of course, limited by his own cultivation and many other factors, the strength of the spirit arrays Namen Dejun arranged was not high, and they would be unable to resist powerful attacks. But Voidland was just 100 kilometers away from the Star City, which to Open Heaven Realm Masters was essentially within arm's reach. Who would dare to attack the Star City under Voidland's watch? If so, the 300 Open Heaven Realm Masters in Voidland would not mind teaching the intruders a harsh lesson again. The Star City was now completed, and compared with the original, its scale was several times bigger. Also, because of the strict planning, the buildings in the Star City were also well organized, no longer chaotic like before. The Star City had been built, but a governor had yet to be chosen. Yang Kai imitated the management system of the thousand-bird Star City of Great Battle Heaven, establishing a governor's mansion in the Star City, and charging Mo Mei, a sixth-order Open Heaven Realm Master, to serve as the first governor of the Star City. There was no other option, really. In the entire Voidland, Yu He and Mo Mei were the strongest. Yu He did not want to take up the responsibility and just wanted to stay by Yang Kai. So Mo Mei had no choice but to take up this task. Although she was born in Blood Monster Cave Heaven, she had been City Lord of Abundance City for many years, giving her plenty of experience in management. She only needed some time to get familiar with the new environment and things would proceed smoothly. Under the jurisdiction of the governor's mansion, the Star City was divided into 4 major districts, north, south, east, and west, each district having its own supervisor in charge. The East City District was overseen by Pang Duo, West City District by Gongyang Shi, South City District by Fan Wu Xian, and North City District by Chun Tian Fei. These 4 reported directly to Mo Mei. With the 4 of them assisting her, managing the Star City would not be a problem for her. This arrangement disappointed Yun Xinghua a little. After all, he had been in charge of the Star City before this. As an official from Voidland, he had a high position and authority, and countless people attempted to curry favor with him every day. However, he was not even a commander in this new Star City. He did not dare to complain though. After all, the Star City was lost right under his nose. Furthermore, he was only a 4th-order Open Heaven Realm Master. He understood that it was impossible to entrust him with such an important task. Fortunately, Yang Kai did not disregard his hard work and handed over management of Void Auction House to him. The Void Auction House was located in the very center of the Star City, not belonging to any of the 4 districts. It was directly under the control of the governor's mansion, and everyone understood that auctions would play a pivotal role in the future of the Star City. So being its head manager was not worse than being in charge of a district. Yun Xinghua was naturally grateful for this arrangement. Yang Kai originally wanted Lu Shui, a 5th-order Open Heaven Realm Master, to serve as a commander, but she refused. Her personality was not suitable for works that involved public relations, and she did not like communicating with strangers. So she decided to remain in Voidland as the Hall Master of the Martial Hall, while also serving as a member of the Elder Council. Yang Kai took into account that the cultivators in Voidland would need a master to guide and pass down their experiences. So Lu Shui deciding to assume command of the Martial Hall was also a boon. With this arrangement, everyone in the Star City was assigned their own duties and the general framework of the Star City was established. In the entire Star City, apart from Void Auction House, which was directly owned by Voidland, there were more than 8 blocks of shops reserved for Voidland, while the other shops would be leased out. Yang Kai had been relatively free recently, so after heating up his furnace and refining some heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills, he went into retreat. His current situation was a little awkward. He could not leave because he was under close watch by a few cave heavens and paradises. So he could only stay hidden in Voidland, waiting for a 7th-order element treasure to arrive at his doorstep. He had a lot of free time now. His wives were all cultivating in retreat, so he could not bother them, which meant he could only cultivate by himself. Whenever he was bored, he would play chess with Bai Shi to kill some time. At the Void Dock, a group of Voidland disciples had nothing to do but did not dare to slack off and decided to patrol in every direction in groups of 3 to 5. There was always at least one void dock in each star city, which served as the gateway in and out of the star city. It made managing the entries a lot more convenient. Otherwise, anyone could enter the star city from any location. Unrestricted and unregulated access could lead to unnecessary chaos and even unrest, allowing those with ill intentions to easily slip in and stir up trouble. There was a void dock in Thousand Birds Star City. When the proprietress first brought Xianxia there, she was stopped by a master on duty from Great Battle Heaven and had to undergo certain entry procedures. Void Star City aimed to become a top-tier star city, so it was naturally essential to have a functioning void dock. However, Void Star City only had a single void dock. Of course, the current Grand Array set up by Nanmen Dejun was not very strong, but no one would break the Grand Array unless they wanted to offend Voidland. The one overseeing the void dock was Jin Yuan Lang. The void dock was the face of the Star City, so the one guarding it could not have low cultivation. Otherwise, the Star City would inevitably be underestimated. Jin Yuan Lang, who was in the Fifth Order Open Heaven realm, was the perfect choice. This was also a small means by Voidland to display their authority. It was believed that anyone who came here would not dare to look down on Voidland after knowing Jin Yuan Lang, a Fifth Order Open Heaven realm master, was guarding the entrance. No matter how big Thousand Birds Star City was, the one guarding its void dock was also a Fifth Order Open Heaven realm master. It had been almost 2 months since Voidland migrated here, and during this time, the void dock remained quite idle. Since no one came to the Star City, naturally no one passed through the void dock. On this day, however, a disciple was observing the void when he suddenly rubbed his eyes and stared carefully at a certain spot. A shudder ran through him as he shouted, "Someone is approaching!" As soon as the shout resounded, the surrounding cultivators moved simultaneously towards the void dock. Some disciples immediately went to report to Jin Yuan Lang, who was cultivating. By the time Jin Yuan Lang had walked out of the nearby palace and come to the dock, a ship could be clearly seen approaching from the void. Jin Yuan Lang narrowed his eyes slightly. He had been living in Blood Monster Cave Heaven all this time, so he was not very familiar with the 3,000 worlds. However, after experiencing the battle that destroyed the 100 Sect Alliance, he had gained a little bit of insight. He could tell at a glance that the ship belonged to a second-class great force. The size of this ship was not small, and was clearly not of a size an ordinary third-class great force could afford. Only a second-class great force was qualified to own something like this. After a while, a disciple from Voidland's side approached the ship to guide it towards the void dock. As soon as the ship was properly berthed, a middle-aged man immediately disembarked, followed by a group of uniformly dressed cultivators with varying degrees of strength. The middle-aged man had a Fourth Order Open Heaven realm cultivation and wore a light smile on his face. He walked straight to greet Jin Yuan Lang with a cupped fist. Gathering Yuan Trade Firm, Li Jing Yuan, greet sir. May I know how we should address sir? Li Jing Yuan could naturally feel Jin Yuan Lang's Fifth Order Open Heaven realm aura, and his heart shuddered slightly. It seemed it was not just a groundless rumor after all. The sudden rapid rise in numbers of mid-rank Open Heaven realm masters in Voidland seemed quite unbelievable to him. After all, the rise of a great force was not an overnight effort. It had to be accumulated slowly over countless years. But he was a little convinced after finding out the man who stood guard over the void dock here was actually a Fifth Order Open Heaven realm master. To have a Fifth Order Open Heaven realm master guarding their entrance obviously meant there were many more Open Heaven realm masters maintaining the operation of the Star City. The news of the collapse of the 100 Sect Alliance had spread like wildfire over the past few months, and Voidland's name had been widely circulated in the 3,000 worlds ever since. Since gathering Yuan Trade Firm was a mercantile force that prioritized business, it was naturally well informed about current events in the outer universe. Jin Yuan Lang's face was calm as he replied softly, "This king's surname is Jin." Li Jing Yuan quickly responded, "So it's Sir Jin." Jin Yuan Lang looked up at the ship. This Jin has been entrusted by Sir Sect Master to safekeep this place by inspecting all who pass through our Void Star City's void dock. For the sake of security, I must ask you a few questions and perform some simple checks. Brother Li, please understand. Li Jing Yuan smiled. As you should. We will cooperate with Brother Jin's inspection. Jin Yuan Lang nodded with satisfaction, his expression softening a little. Sir Sect Master has left an order that anyone who enters the Star City, regardless of their cultivation, must register and report their intentions. Different jade tokens will be distributed according to each visitor's intended length of stay. Is Brotherly planning to just stop by here for supplies, or is he planning to stay in the Star City long term? Li Jing Yuan pondered for a while and replied bluntly, Sir Jin, we, Gathering Yuan trade firm, are always searching for business opportunities, following the Tao of commerce. Our trade firm has never been to Void Star City before, so we will need to inquire about the situation here before we decide if we want to stay. I wonder how this will be handled. Jin Yuan Lang answered, That's simple. I will give you a jade token for a short-term stay, valid for 1 month. After a month, if you wish to continue your stay in the Star City, you need only report to the governor's mansion to renew or upgrade your jade token. If you don't renew your token in time, you may find yourself in trouble with the Star City Law Enforcement Team. Very good. Li Jing Yuan nodded. He was ordered to come here this time by his headquarters to 1. Verify the existence of the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pills, and 2. To inspect the future prospects of Void Star City. If possible, Gathering Yuan trade firm would definitely be willing to set up a branch here, but it also depended on whether Void Star City had the potential to develop in the future. If there was no such potential, naturally there was no reason for them to invest in this place. Meanwhile, Jin Yuan Lang had ordered his subordinates to register the names of everyone from Gathering Yuan trade firm and their purpose for visiting. He then issued tokens to each of them. Li Jing Yuan was pleased and nodded. Many thanks, Sir Jin. Please accept this small token of our respect. While speaking, he shoved a space ring towards him. Jin Yuan Lang's brow furrowed slightly before accepting the ring and quietly waving his hand. Let them pass. A crack opened in the grand array of the Star City, allowing everyone from Gathering Yuan trade firm to pass through. Watching the group leave, Jin Yuan Lang looked at the space ring in his hand and found that there were 300 open heaven pills inside. After he was entrusted by Yang Kai to guard the Void Dock, Jin Yuan Lang sought out Chen Tianfei for some advice. After all, it was the first time he had taken up a task like this, and he was really unfamiliar with it. Although Chen Tianfei's cultivation was lower than his, he was definitely more experienced than him in this aspect. Chen Tianfei had indeed mentioned that the task of guarding the Void Dock was a very profitable one because gifts were a normal part of the job. It was likely for visitors to enter and exit more than once, so it was better to form good relationships with the one safekeeping the Void Dock, allowing them to save some trouble in the long run. Even when the proprietress took Yang Kai to Thousand Bird Star City for the first time, she did the same thing, so nothing need be said about others. Jin Yuan Lang did not expect that he would be receiving gifts from the very first visitor. 300 Open Heaven pills was really nothing to him as a 5th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, but many grains of sand would eventually build a tower, and this was just the beginning. Just when he was about to distribute the 300 Open Heaven pills to his subordinates, the lookout disciple shouted again, Elder Jin, someone else is approaching, and there is more than one ship this time. Jin Yuan Lang looked up, and sure enough, he spotted 5 ships heading in this direction. Oh! Inside the Star City, Li Jing Yuan led a group of people around on a tour of the grounds. To be honest, the scale of Void Star City was indeed not small. If it was well managed and if the population was high enough, it would definitely become a first-class Star City. And this Star City had only just been expanded, so the majority of the shops and lots were still unowned. For any profit-seeking businessman, this was undoubtedly a good place to flex their muscles. After a short round of inspection, Li Jing Yuan was already confident that Void Star City had promising prospects. This could not be helped, for the news of the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill had already spread far and wide. If they had come here because of that, they certainly would not be the last ones to be attracted. Once more forces began arriving, the popularity of the Star City would not be an issue at all. Furthermore, Li Jing Yuan could not help but turn his head to look in the direction where a great behemoth, which was Voidland's headquarters, was lying in the void. Rumor had it that Voidland's headquarters actually rested on the back of an ancient divine spirit. Many had witnessed this with their own eyes on the day it migrated here, causing a huge commotion. Since Voidland's headquarters had migrated here, it showed that it was determined to build up this Star City. The sooner one grabbed hold of this kind of opportunity, the greater the rewards they could reap. As for the feud between Voidland and other great forces, Li Jingyuan did not need to worry too much. If war really was initiated, the Star City would not be affected. After all, this was a land of gold, so anyone who planned to usurp this place would not allow it to be destroyed. Therefore, after only 3 days of inspection in the Star City, Li Jingyuan had already made up his mind to set up shop in Void Star City. He was a manager in Gathering Yuan trade firm and had some decision-making power. As long as this matter was done well, his status in the trade firm would also improve. After just 3 days, Li Jingyuan also noticed that a lot more people had arrived in the Star City. The inn where they had been the only occupants was now almost overcrowded. Most of the inns that were open in the Star City were owned by Voidland. The 8 rows of shops reserved by them were dispersed around the Void auction house, and among these shops, some inns naturally were opened, as well as a couple of restaurants. Of course, it was not just Voidland's property that was doing business. Many shopkeepers who had remained in the Star City from before had received new shops in their original spots as compensation and had begun operation hastily. Unfortunately, because of the Star City's low population, the streets were still quite empty. Nevertheless, accommodations were a necessity. One could not be expected to sleep on the street every night, which was why all inns were fully booked now. Voidland had opened 5 inns, but now it seemed that was far from enough. Many cultivators were even forced to rent the empty cave mansions from the governor's mansion. A mountain range in the Star City that was no taller than 3 kilometers was contributed by Golden Light Dock. Considering that many cultivators would definitely settle in the Star City in the future, it was impossible for them to live in inns every day, so Voidland opened up countless cave mansions in this mountain range. These cave mansions were divided into different categories, and also came with different prices, but all of them were managed directly by the governor's mansion. When the inns were filled, cultivators who had no place to stay could only rent the cave mansions. The cave mansions had a 1-month minimum rental period, and because it was quieter and more private, many flocked to rent such places despite their higher prices. The operation of the inns and restaurants, as well as the rental of the cave mansions, had already gained Voidland a small fortune in the Star City, and this was just the beginning. Since the arrival of Gathering Yuan trade firm to the Star City, the Void Dock had not had a free moment. All the disciples on duty were exhausted, and because there was only one Void Dock in the entire Void Star City, a long line had formed outside, waiting for entry. No one dared to trespass or cut in line, so they could only wait for Jin Yuan Lang to slowly inspect and register them before allowing them to pass through one by one. The popularity of Void Star City had soared through the roof and showed no signs of cooling down anytime soon. Li Jingyuan led 2 attendants to the governor's mansion, and after reporting his intention, was led into a certain grand hall. In the grand hall, the manager in charge of the Void Star City's properties received him. The manager was an Open Heaven Realm Master from Abundant City and a 4th Order Open Heaven Master. So Li Jingyuan dared not underestimate him. The manager soon activated a projection, displaying the layout of the shops in the entire Star City. Li Jingyuan glanced at this map and pointed to an area that was glowing in green, asking, "Manager Liu, why are these places colored differently?" Manager Liu replied, "The green lots represent land that is already occupied. If you wish to open a storefront, please look for the white ones." Li Jingyuan was stunned when he heard the words. "I thought we were already quite fast. How did others get ahead of us?" He took a closer look at the areas that were highlighted in green and quickly understood that they were the most central and prosperous areas in the Star City. He suddenly realized that these were the shops reserved by Voidland for itself. The Star City belonged to Voidland, so it was inevitable for them to keep the best locations for themselves. This was something that would happen in every Star City. Secretly thinking to himself that it was a pity, Li Jingyuan pointed to where the next best shops were located. Here, here, and here. He pointed at more than 10 locations in one go, all of which were where the streets met. Although Li Jingyuan was a 4th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, he was a businessman after all and had very sharp eyes. Naturally, he could foresee that these more than 10 places would be the second most popular places in the Star City in the days to come. Once the stores were in his hands, Gathering Yuan trade firm would be able to win the top spot in Voidland, and they would make a steady profit regardless of what kind of businesses they operated in the future. I'm sorry, fellow brother. The manager suddenly interrupted him. The governor has decreed that no one can own more than 3 shops in Void Star City. You have picked too many. Li Jingyuan was taken aback for a moment. There is such a rule? He had been to a lot of star cities, but this was the first time he had encountered such a rule. How confident was Voidland to be making such a decision? Were they so sure that the Star City would be so popular in the future that they were already limiting the number of stores one force could occupy in advance? But after thinking about what he had seen and heard for the past 3 days, he felt relieved. As long as there were no accidents, Void Star City would indeed become extremely popular. He pondered for a while, then with a smile on his face, he reached into his sleeve inconspicuously and pulled out a space ring. Placing it in front of the manager quietly, he started, "Sir, we Gathering Yuan trade firm run many types of businesses, so 3 shops are really not enough. Couldn't you accommodate another one or 2? The manager glanced at the space ring on the table, then shook his head slowly. "Forgive me, the governor has passed down clear orders. I am simply following them. Is there really no other way?" Li Jingyuan was a little reluctant. The manager shook his head without another word. An idea suddenly struck Li Jingyuan then, and he quickly smiled. 3 shops then. He picked out the best 3 shops from his previous selection, then asked eagerly, "How much does it cost to buy these 3 stores in total?" The manager answered, "The shops in the Star City are only for rent, not for sale." Li Jingyuan frowned. "This is the case for all shops? There are no exceptions." Li Jingyuan's tongue clicked. It was common for the major star cities to reserve their good locations, but there would always be some that could be bought and sold. He never thought that none of the shops in Void Star City were for sale at all. Not wanting to discuss further on this matter, Li Jingyuan replied shortly, "Then I will rent these 3 shops." The manager replied, "There are options of 10-year leases and 100-year leases. The prices differ too. Which one do you want?" The corners of Li Jingyuan's brow twitched. "Oh." After a long time, Li Jingyuan walked out of the governor's mansion feeling a little tired. He had been to many star cities and dealt with the people who managed properties numerous times, but he had never encountered a star city that had policies like Void Star City did. They are already positioning themselves in such a manner before the population of Void Star City even gathers. How irritating. Moreover, the rental of the shops here was really not cheap, almost 20% more expensive than his original estimates. If it was an ordinary star city, he would not be willing to splurge, but he was so optimistic about the future potential of Void Star City that he agreed to the conditions and signed the agreement with the manager. He originally planned to rent more shops through the hands of his subordinates, but at the moment he gave up on this idea. The rental price of Void Star City shops were quite expensive. Although he was optimistic about the development prospects here, he decided to act a bit more cautiously. It would not be a great loss to use 3 shops to test the waters first. At least, that was his initial plan. However, just after 2 days, he regretted his caution greatly. That was because, after just a few days, the number of cultivators who had poured into Void Star City was nothing short of a torrent. From a distance, he could see several long lines of flight-type artifacts queuing up at the Void Dock, just waiting to enter the Star City. The street in front of the governor's mansion was brimming with visitors, and he even saw several familiar faces there, all of whom were managers of other trade companies. Needless to say, they were there to lease shops. Li Jingyuan made up his mind to lease more shops through his subordinates and entered the governor's mansion. Unfortunately, he found that all the shops with good locations that he had his eyes on before had already been rented out. The Star City was beginning to get lively. Since the arrival of Gathering Yuan trade firm, thousands of cultivators had been flowing in from all directions, and as time went by, the numbers continued to increase rapidly. After just a few days, the number of people who were passing through the Void Dock daily exceeded 3,000, and the numbers were climbing rapidly. The dock was so jam-packed that Jin Yuan Lang was beginning to get overwhelmed. He had no choice but to requisition more support. He reported to Yang Kai immediately after receiving the news, and he naturally did not refuse, sending her to personally bring more disciples to the dock to maintain order. With the arrival of a 6th-order Open Heaven Realm Master and a large number of Void Land disciples, the situation at the dock improved slightly. A few days later, while reporting the situation in the Star City to Yang Kai, Bian Yuqing became very excited when it came to the matter of the number of cultivators in the Star City. Sect Master, the number of cultivators who have passed through the dock today alone has exceeded 5,300. Yang Kai nodded lightly while he took a sip from his teacup. Although this situation was expected, he felt relieved by the news of the current progression. The heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill that was auctioned before was not wasted. With the emergence of the spirit pill, and the last sentence Lu Shui said at the end of the auction, there was no need for Voidland to deliberately promote the Star City, for others would naturally spread the news for them. Once the news spread out, countless people would be attracted. What about the Star City? How many people are there now? Yang Kai asked again. Approximately 80,000. Our Star City can accommodate up to 1 million people. At this rate, I'm afraid it will be overcrowded within a few months. Yang Kai instructed MOMA will need to increase the number of patrols and the number of law enforcers in the Star City to prevent troubles that could ruin our reputation. Make sure she understands that those who dare to cause problems in the Star City will not be tolerated. Bian Yuqing smiled. Protector Mo has already arrested a number of people in the past few days, all of whom have been sent to the dungeon. Yang Kai looked up in the direction of the Star City. Pondering for a moment, the auction should have begun by this time, right? Bian Yuqing nodded. Yes, the auction started about an hour ago, and should be finishing up soon. Who is hosting this time? Manager Yoon himself. Yang Kai nodded lightly. The last time, he had no choice but to let Lu Shui take up the task. Still, now that the auction house was under Yun Xinghua's management, and with him being a far more sociable individual, Yun Xinghua was a much more suitable candidate to host the auction. As they were talking, Bian Yuqing suddenly changed her expression, took out a communication bead, and poured her divine sense into it. After a while, she happily reported, Sect Master, there's good news. Yang Kai almost spat out his tea as his eyes widened. Tell me. Bian Yuqing giggled. The auction has ended successfully. The finale item, the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill, was sold for 3.5 million open heaven pills, and the total revenue with the rest of the auctioned items came to nearly 8 million open heaven pills. Yang Kai almost choked. 3.5 million open heaven pills was far from the true value of the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill. Even 10 million was not sufficient for its worth. The reason for the price this time was probably because the cultivators here were still not fully prepared. The price of the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill would surely soar again in the next auction, and by that time, the situation in the Star City would begin to stabilize. As long as Voidland managed the Star City well, there was no need to worry about cultivation resources for its disciples in the future. After solving the issue with resources for Voidland, the next issue was Yang Kai's own resource needs. A 7th order in element treasure. He did not even know where to start looking for one, giving Yang Kai a slight headache. Shopkeeper Jean and Shopkeeper Tong walked out of Void Auction House absent-mindedly. They had participated in this auction mainly for research purposes and witnessed the popularity of the last Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill. Compared to the first auction 3 months ago, the auction this time could only be described as brutal. When the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill appeared on the stage, voices screaming bids constantly overlapped each other, and the price climbed so fast that left them both feeling utterly shocked. Brother Jean, we truly picked up an enormous bargain. Shopkeeper Tong spoke solemnly. If it were not for a coincidental opportunity, how could the two of them obtain a Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill for a mere 140,000 open heaven pills? The same spirit pill was sold today for 3.5 million open heaven pills, which was dozens of times the price they had paid. At this point, they no longer doubted the authenticity of the spirit pill. Even though they could not recognize it, would all these others not be able to? Besides that, Voidland would never do anything to sabotage their reputation at this critical moment. What we need to do now is to find someone to sell the spirit pill to as soon as possible. Void Star City is becoming more and more popular, and our shops need funds to operate. Shopkeeper Jean replied, Brother Tong, to tell you the truth, someone contacted me privately yesterday, offering 1 million open heaven pills to buy our Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill. 1 million. Shopkeeper Tong's eyes widened as he snapped, he might as well just rob us. If he had not participated in today's auction, 1 million would be enough to impress him. But after witnessing the great struggle for the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill, 1 million was clearly not enough to excite him anymore. Shopkeeper Jean chuckled. I naturally refused, though I think that more people will be contacting us in the next few days. We should not stray far from each other, so we can talk if we encounter a good opportunity. Day after day, a large number of cultivators poured into the Star City, and in less than a month after the end of the second auction, the number of cultivators residing in the Star City had reached 200,000 according to the statistics of the governor's mansion. Such a number had far exceeded the limit of the previous Void Star City. If Xianxia had not expanded the scale of the Star City in advance, it would have been extremely cramped. The more people there were, the more problems would happen. There were people picking fights and provoking trouble every single day. The Star City law enforcement team had also arrested many people, which brought the Star City back to stability again. The shopkeepers who had fled before also rushed back and gathered before the governor's mansion to protest to get their shop back. Voidland ignored them, but later on had no choice but to send them to the dungeon after they ignored warnings to not cause a public disturbance. About 1/3 of all the stores in the Star City had been leased out, and the profit from rent alone was a huge number. Merchants from near and far had come to rent shops. This further drove the popularity of the Star City. Void Star City was no longer a desolate backwater, and one could buy any goods they looked for and could sell anything they wanted to sell. Everything was on track. As long as they could sustain this pace for a year and a half, the Star City could be completely stabilized and form a healthy circulation. By then, there would be no need to worry anymore. Everyone was waiting for the start of the third auction. Bian Yuqing would come every half-month to report on the situation of the Star City to Xianxia at his residing palace. And today was no exception. Sect Master, according to the observation of this subordinate, people from the cave heavens and paradises have arrived in the Star City, but have hidden their identities. It's impossible to identify which cave heaven or paradise they're from. Xianxia gave a small nod. The matter regarding the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill is very important. It's only natural for them to send people to investigate. Then Sect Master, should we make contact with them? Xianxia shook his head. Just ignore them. Since they have hidden their identities, they obviously don't want to reveal themselves. If they really want something, they will naturally come to us. Was it a pair of Star City shopkeepers who bought the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill in the first auction for 140,000 open heaven pills? Bian Yuqing replied with a smile. Sect Master is correct. Shopkeeper Jean and Shopkeeper Tong both originally ran small shops, but had no choice but to stay back because they were reluctant to abandon their property, allowing them to pick up a great bargain instead. Send someone to protect them. Be cautious if someone comes in contact with them and wants to buy the heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill. Bian Yuqing's expression changed slightly. Does Sect Master mean? Xianxia smiled slightly. No harm being prepared. Bian Yuqing understood and bowed. Rest assured, Sect Master. Elder Lu promised them before that if they needed help in the sale of Spirit Pill, they could inform Voidland, and we would act as an intermediary. They have no background or backing, so if they really want to sell off the Spirit Pill, they would definitely seek help from Voidland. That's good. In addition, quietly spread the news that I need a high-rank element treasure. Yes. Bian Yuqing bowed. If Sect Master has no other orders, the subordinate will retreat now. Go. Xianxia waved his hand. Bian Yuqing stepped back respectfully but turned back as soon as she left. Xianxia looked at her. Is there anything else? Bian Yuqing reported. Sect Master, I just received news that some of your friends have come to Voidland and want to visit with you. Friends. Xianxia raised his brows. Who? I was told that they're from Great Moon Province. But I don't know who they are. Great Moon Province. Xianxia's eyes lit up, suddenly having an idea of who they were, so he immediately called out, bring them in. Yes. After a while, Xianxia stood outside his palace with a smile on his face, watching a group of people speeding towards him. When they approached, he took a few steps forward to greet them. Led by Bian Yuqing personally, the group landed not far in front of Xianxia. The leader of the group was a burly man, accompanied by a pretty woman. Both of them were third-order Open Heaven Realm Masters. They were Wei Kei and Tao Rongfang from Great Moon Province, whom Yang Kai had met years ago. Behind them stood 2 men and 2 women. All 6 of them were familiar faces, and many memories flitted through Yang Kai's mind as his eyes swept across them. However, they all seemed very reserved. Great Moon Province was only a third-class great force, and its leader was only a third-order Open Heaven Realm Master. Voidland now possessed the atmosphere of a top-tier second-class great force, with numerous mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters. It was inevitable for them to feel stressed to be here. The guests saw Yang Kai, who had come out to greet them, and the older-looking man and one of the women were delighted, speeding up their pace a little. But they seemed to remember something a moment later and slowed down slightly. Great Moon Province's Wei Kei greets Sect Master Yang. Wei Kei took a step forward, cupped his fist, and shouted. Yang Kai stretched out his hand to hold him up and said with a smile, Senior Wei, it's good to see you again. Wei Kei broke into a grin at the word senior, and his stiffened body relaxed a lot. Yang Kai turned to Tao Rongfang again, nodding gently. Senior Tao. Tao Rongfang bowed elegantly. Sect Master Yang. Yang Kai then looked at the 2 men and 2 women behind them with a happy smile on his face. Old Fang too was smiling, but his smile was a little stiff. Meng Hong, on the other hand, who was standing beside him, looked perfectly calm. Meng Hong had been with Yang Kai for over 10 years in the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary and formed a close friendship with him. Therefore, even though Yang Kai was now the owner of a prosperous great force with powerful subordinates, Meng Hong did not feel too much pressure. Behind the 2 were Jieyu and Ah Sunday. At this moment, Jieyu was looking at Yang Kai with a complicated expression. She could not help but recall the days when they all lived together in Seven Wonders Land. Back then, when the very ground under their feet was still Seven Wonders Land, they lived a life without hope for the future, wasting away their time and resources for trivial third-order materials. Even as a mere worker, however, Yang Kai was able to find a way to thrive. And now, after years of separation, he was the owner of this land. It was indeed true that capable people were able to achieve more than what ordinary people could. Old Fang was grinning. He did not know what to say. Before coming here, he thought about what to say to Yang Kai when they met, but was really intimidated by the prosperity of the Star City and the strength of Voidland when he arrived. Yang Kai took 2 steps forward and gave Old Fang a hearty bear hug while Old Fang continued to gaze at him dumbfounded, giving him a huge pat on the back. I haven't seen you for many years, Old Fang. You're looking older than ever. Old Fang's initially stiff body immediately twitched and he shouted angrily. Nonsense, despite this old master's age. He is still as mighty as a dragon and fierce as a tiger. How am I getting old? Yang Kai's warm welcome had made him forego his embarrassment and anxiety. He chuckled and shook his head. You brat. Yang Kai let go of him, turned to Jieyu and Ah Sun with open arms. You 2, on the other hand, have grown even more beautiful. Jieyu blushed and swerved away, glaring at Yang Kai. Ah Sun foolishly wanted to lean forward and accept the embrace, but Jieyu hurriedly grabbed her and snapped, He's trying to take advantage of you, you silly girl. Ah Sun suddenly realized, then made a face at Yang Kai as she shouted, My master is here, be careful or she'll beat you up. To the side, Tao Rongfang laughed dryly. Given that Yang Kai's identity was different now and she was just a third-order Open Heaven Realm Master, how would she dare to make a move against him in Voidland? If her disciple was really taken advantage of, all she could do was to pretend not to see it. It's just a hug, you won't lose anything. Yang Kai complained, look how generous Old Fang was. Bah! Do you spat, he's an old man, how can he be the same as us? Old Fang was suddenly upset, who's an old man? The group quarreled noisily and the atmosphere suddenly became harmonious. The previous respect and caution was longer present. Wei Kei and Tao Rongfang exchanged glances, grateful that Yang Kai had deliberately broken the ice between them. It seemed that their trip here was not a mistake. Even though Yang Kai now held a lofty position, he never despised them for their weakness, and all the previous worries had vanished. Brother Meng. Yang Kai saluted to Meng Hong again. Meng Hong saluted back. Brother Yang. Meng Hong was quite likable, and one of the 3 mid-rank world fruits Yang Kai had was given to him by Meng Hong. In the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary, Meng Hong received much help and protection from Yang Kai, allowing him and the other Great Moon Province disciples to remain unscathed. The mid-rank world fruit was Meng Hong's way of thanking Yang Kai. However, only one out of the 3 mid-rank world fruits were left. One of them was given to Yu He to help her advance to the 6th Order Open Heaven Realm, and another was given to Lu Shui for her advancement to the 5th Order Open Heaven Realm. You have traveled far. Let's talk inside. Yang Kai ushered them in warmly, and turned to instructed Bian Yuqing. Prepare a banquet. Today, I won't go home unless I'm drunk with these old friends. Yes. Bian Yuqing saluted elegantly and left immediately. After a while, in the main hall, wine flowed freely and cups went gaily round, making for a lively atmosphere. Yang Kai, Old Fang, Ah Sun, and Dai Yu were all workers in 7 Wonders Land previously. Everyone reminisced sadly as they looked back on the days when it seemed that they would never see the light at the end of the tunnel. Who would have thought they could ever escape 7 Wonders Land? Perhaps only Yang Kai, who had been planning his escape since the first day he entered 7 Wonders Land. Old Fang and Dai Yu had been enslaved by 7 Wonders Land for hundreds of years, and if it was not for Yang Kai, who threw everything into chaos and finally led them to escape, they would not have been able to ever have a new life. But now, the once worker of the land was the overlord of Voidland, leader of over 300 open heaven realm masters, and even the owner of a thriving star city that was renowned throughout the 3,000 worlds. Although Old Fang and the others did not have grand accomplishments like Yang Kai did, they were still doing pretty well in Great Moon Province. At the very least, there was hope for the future, and the days were no longer as dark as they used to be. Yang Kai's, Old Fang's, and the others' voices and laughter resounded endlessly in the banquet hall. Wei Kei and Tao Rongfang looked at each other secretly, feeling relieved. They had come here by the orders of the leader of Great Moon Province to make a request. They were initially a little worried about whether it would go well, but now it seemed that the 2 of them were unnecessarily anxious. Yang Kai was obviously someone who cherished old friendships. In this case, the matter regarding Great Moon Province's request should not be difficult. However, it was not a good time to bring it up, so they could only wait for an opportunity. But who could have imagined that the owner of Voidland, the man who destroyed the 100 Sect Alliance and killed off more than 10,000 with a single order, the one who beheaded a mighty 6th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, Heavenly Sword Union's Union Master, Kong Feng, would be such a genial person? Previously, the 100 Sect Alliance was led by Heavenly Sword Union to besiege Voidland, but instead had the tables turned on them. When they received such news, Great Moon Province found it hard to believe them. Even though they had learned that Yang Kai had occupied 7 Wonders Land, renamed it Voidland, and became its new owner, the 100 Sect Alliance was formidable, not to mention that it had several second-class great forces such as Heavenly Sword Union in it. After confirming from various sources that the information was true, Great Moon Province was greatly shaken. Old Fang and the others had wanted to come and provide help. Although their strength was limited, they had gone through life or death together with Yang Kai. Back then, when Yang Kai was pursued by many great forces after robbing the Golden Crow corpse and hiding in First Inn, they had no choice but to follow Wei Kei to Great Moon Province. They still felt guilty because of that. They felt as though they had abandoned Yang Kai. It was only natural that they felt uneasy when they learned that Yang Kai was in trouble. However, Voidland had become famous through this battle. Later, when it was reported that the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill had appeared in Voidstar City, the leader of Great Moon Province agreed to Old Fang's and the others' request and ordered Wei Kei and Tao Rongfang to be their escorts. It may appear that they were just going to escort Old Fang and the others to Voidland, but in fact, Wei Kei and Tao Rongfang had another task. After 3 rounds of drinks, Yang Kai asked Old Fang and the others about their cultivation. Old Fang took a gulp of wine, wiped his mouth, and replied with a chuckle, "This old master is just an old man. I don't want to fuss around anymore. It's already not bad to achieve the 3rd Order Open Heaven Realm in the future. But Xiao Yu and the others used the Tai Yi soul cleansing water that you gave them to wipe clean the powers in their Dao seals, and have started cultivating from the beginning again. After leaving the grand ancient ruins boundary and occupying 7 Wonders Land, Yang Kai sent Meng Hong to provide Old Fang and the others some cultivation resources, including the Tai Yi soul cleansing water and complete sets of 5th Order Heaven Realm materials. However, one needed great will and daring to use the Tai soul cleansing water. Old Fong had low ambitions and was already quite old. He might just die if he pushed himself too much. As such, he simply accepted his fate. Although Third Order Open Heaven Realm was a lower starting point, as long as one worked hard over time, they still had hope to advance to the Fifth Order Open Heaven Realm. It would just take a little longer. However, with the combination of Meng Hong's example and experience and their own careful consideration, it seemed that Diayu and Ah Sun had chosen to use the Tai soul cleansing water to cleanse their Dao seals, and restarted their cultivation. Now both of them were condensing the Fifth Order elements, with the hopes that they could directly achieve the Fifth Order Open Heaven Realm in the future. Their starting point would be much higher than that of Old Fong's, and their road ahead would thus stretch further. Wei Kei and Tao Rongfong were a little worried about the dangers they might encounter while advancing to the Open Heaven Realm in the future. After all, although both of their aptitudes were good, condensing Fifth Order powers was still quite risky. Since Yang Kai was someone who cherished old friendships dearly though, he would not ignore them. Now that the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill was auctioned here in Voidland, it should not be a problem to get two to help with their advancement. Yang Kai turned to look at Diayu and Ah Sun, and although he did not know how much suffering the two had gone through, he could imagine that it would not be far off from what happened to Meng Hong when he took the Tai soul cleansing water previously. After pondering for a while, Yang Kai turned to address Wei Kei. Senior Wei, this junior has a request that he wonders if Senior would agree to. Wei Kei hurriedly sat up straight and replied sternly, Sect Master Yang, please speak freely. I, Wei Kei, will never refuse as long as I'm capable. The only reason Yang Kai called him senior was because of his friendship with Old Fong and the others, so Wei Kei did not dare to show a trace of arrogance. The handsome young man before him was capable of killing over 10,000 cultivators. He was the one who annihilated the 100-sect alliance with a single order, and was the one who personally cut off the head of a Sixth Order Open Heaven Realm Master. Wei Kei was aware that his own Great Moon Province was not even worthy of carrying Heavenly Sword Union's shoes. Yang Kai proceeded, enemies targeted our void land recently, and the Star City faced a major downturn. Now that we have achieved a great victory, it is time to focus on raising our Star City's popularity. Since you are already here, this Yang hopes you will not leave too quickly. I would like to ask Senior to continue his stay in the Star City. I can allocate a few shops to Great Moon Province. No matter what business Great Moon Province does, it will be of great help to me. Wei Kei gasped and stood up quickly, his face turning red. Sect Master Yang, this is. The mission given to him and Tao Rongfong by their leader was to obtain a shop in Void Star City. One shop. Great Moon Province was not a very accomplished or ambitious sect, while Void Star City's popularity was rising at an astonishing rate. If one could secure even a single stall here and run some small businesses, it could be a great help to maintain one's livelihood and sustain the cultivation needs of one's disciples. Wei Kei was still pondering how to bring this issue up with Yang Kai, so he never thought that Yang Kai would take the initiative to mention it. In all honesty, what could they do to help Voidland? Yang Kai was only phrasing it this way to give them face. They passed by the Star City before arriving here, and it was clearly overflowing with vitality while all the shops were doing very well. Why would Voidland need a trivial Great Moon Province to help? Yang Kai had long seen their intention of coming here. Wei Kei was now thoroughly embarrassed. Yang Kai smiled. Or does Senior Wei think that Void Star City is facing a bleak future? If so, I won't insist. That is absolutely not true, Sect Master Yang. Wei Kei flailed his arms wildly as he hurriedly stated. Being able to stay in Void Star City is exactly what Great Moon Province wished for, and if that's the case, I would like to thank Sect Master Yang for his deep kindness. He then cupped his fist solemnly. Yang Kai nodded and turned to Bianyu Qing, who was sitting next to him. Go back to the governor's mansion to make arrangements. Have the manager in charge of the Star City shops to reserve 5 premium-located stores under Great Moon Province's name. Bianyu Qing was slightly startled, but quickly replied, Yes, Sect Master, rest assured. I'll see to it right away. Reserving shops under the name of Great Moon Province meant that ownership itself would be transferred to them, not leased. In other words, these 5 stores would belong exclusively to Great Moon Province in the future, and would no longer belong to Voidland. Wei Kei obviously understood the meaning of this, and exclaimed involuntarily, Sect Master Yang, How could we possibly accept such generosity? 5 is too many for Great Moon Province. 1 is enough. Great Moon Province was a mere third-class great force, so it was not an exaggeration that they would not know what to do with 5 shops. It was just as Wei Kei said, 1 shop was plenty. Yang Kai raised his hand. Say no more, Senior Wei. These 5 shops will be entrusted to you. Whether Great Moon Province chooses to do business with them or lease them out, it will be for you to decide. Old Fong and the others are dear friends of mine, and Brother Meng and I have faced many life and death tribulations together in the grand ancient ruins boundary. On top of that, Brother Meng even gifted me an incredibly precious treasure. These trivial 5 shops are nothing compared to such things. How could Wei Kei refuse after what Yang Kai had said? With no other choice, he cupped fists and bowed his head deeply. Many thanks, Sect Master Yang. However, he was still a little puzzled. What did Meng Hong give to Yang Kai that could be called an incredibly precious treasure? However, now was not the right time to ask, so he could only suppress his curiosity. Yang Kai was not just trying to be polite. After all, how could a mere 5 shops compare to a mid-rank world fruit? Not to mention 5, even 50 shops would still pale in comparison. That was a treasure that could help a mid-rank open heaven realm master directly advance by a whole order, and would even increase their lifetime limit by an order. Such a treasure would even be of extreme interest to high-rank open heaven realm masters. It was not that Yang Kai was reluctant to give more shops to Great Moon Province, but he was also aware of Great Moon Province's limitations. It was useless to give them more shops and would only attract the greed of others, causing more harm than good. When the banquet ended, the members of Great Moon Province left, with Bian Yuqing personally leading them to the governor's mansion in the Star City to select the locations of their 5 new shops. The news that the owner of Void Land required a high-ranking element treasure spread out quietly. Yang Kai hoped that someone would secretly come to him to trade, but no one approached even after waiting for a long time, though some people did come to give information of places where he might find high-ranking element treasures. Yang Kai sent subordinates to inquire about the credibility of this information, but the results were disappointing. Most people just made fraudulent reports in the hopes of gaining some benefits, while the ones who did provide legitimate possibilities only did so for places Voidland could not confirm or even approach, so the matter was left to drift. Yang Kai sighed. It seemed that high-ranking element treasures were only accessible by the cave heavens and paradises. As time passed, the number of people residing in the Star City reached as high as 500,000. Such a scale had already surpassed the limits of a second-class Star City, and it was steadily developing into a first-class one. On the eve of the 3rd auction, another old friend came to visit. After receiving the report from Bian Yuqing, Yang Kai ordered her to be shown in. In the reception hall, Yang Kai smiled as he watched a great beauty sashay in. Senior Sister Chu. Chu Huashang smiled enchantingly, her eyes radiating an intense charm. As her lashes fluttered lightly, she asked sweetly, Junior Brother Yang, have you been thinking of me? Bian Yuqing, who brought her in, glanced at Chu Huashang with a strange expression, but quickly lowered her eyes again. Yang Kai half choked, half laughed, thinking to himself, this enchantress is still so unfiltered with her words. He was about to tease her in return when suddenly his expression changed. With a raised brow he asked, has Senior Sister advanced to the open heaven realm? At this moment, a world force aura was lingering around Chu Huashang, but it seemed that she had just broken through, so her cultivation had not been completely stabilized yet, so she was not able to withdraw her aura freely. Thanks to Junior Brother, this Senior Sister was fortunate enough to break through after leaving the blood monster cave heaven. Chu Huashang covered her lips and giggled. Yang Kai suddenly recalled something. This seductress told him before that she was cultivating the heartless Tao. If she wanted to advance to the open heaven realm, she had to fall in love with someone, and then cut ties with that love. At that time, she had told him frankly that he was the one who she chose to fall in love with and give up the love she had for him. They went through dire situations together and supported each other throughout the blood monster cave heaven. Being alone together, even a man like Yang Kai, who had seen plenty of beauties, could not help feeling some fondness for Chu Huashang. However, due to various reasons, he did not want to overstep his boundaries. However, Chu Huashang had apparently already fallen in love along the way. It was easy to fall in love, but not so much to cut ties. Now that Chu Huashang has advanced to open heaven realm, it meant that she has successfully given up her love, but Yang Kai had no idea how she had done it and was still standing here in front of him flirting so casually. Obviously, Inyang Cave Heaven should have some special methods. Whatever the case was, Yang Kai was truly happy that she had advanced to the open heaven realm, and he immediately cupped his fist with a smile. Congratulations, senior sister. Having the sixth order open heaven as your starting point, senior sister's name will surely resound throughout the 3,000 worlds in the future. Chu Huashang pouted. What's there to congratulate? This senior sister's heart is hurting so bad. If you don't believe me, you can feel it yourself. After saying so, she puffed her chest out and leaned towards Yang Kai. Bian Yuqing's head was lowered so far by now that it was like she wanted to bury her head in the ground. Yang Kai could not stand it any longer and hastily took 2 steps back. Ahem, ahem? A soft cough suddenly came from beside him, and a somewhat familiar voice followed after. This old master is not dead yet. If the two of you are going to flirt, can you please not do it in front of this old man? This old man is getting old and his blood qi is not so strong anymore. The stimulation isn't good for me. Yang Kai turned to look at him. You are... Chu Huashang did not come alone. She was accompanied by another person covered in black clothes, making it difficult to make out the body, appearance, or even gender of this individual. But as soon as Yang Kai heard the voice, he could tell that the person was a man, and he should be quite elderly. Moreover, Yang Kai felt that he should have met this person before. Otherwise, the voice would not have sounded familiar. The man lifted his hood, revealing an old face with a slight smile. He cupped his fist. Sect Master Yang, we meet again. Yang Kai pondered for a while, then suddenly asked, Old Zhou. This elderly man was obviously the Fifth Order Open Heaven Realm Master from Azura Cave Heaven. His surname was Zhou, and that was all Yang Kai knew about his name. He only knew Old Zhou because he was the person in charge of the Azura Arena in Thousand Bird Star City. The last time Yang Kai went to Thousand Bird Star City in search of the proprietress, he was forced by Yu Luosha, a core disciple of Azura Cave Heaven, to participate in a bout in the Azura Arena against her. In that battle, Yang Kai bet 100 million open heaven pills on himself, and won a fortune with the 10:1 odds against him. In the end, it was Old Zhou who came forward and handed over his prize. At that time, Old Zhou also compensated Yang Kai an extra 150 million, with an agreement that he would never set foot in any Azura arena again in the future. Yang Kai could truly be called invincible below the open heaven realm. Even Yu Luosha was beaten by him in a single move. With such a display, Old Zhou really had no choice but to make such a proposal. There was no way Yang Kai would not want to gain benefits without any cost. In addition to that, Old Zhou also revealed that some cave heavens and paradises were targeting him, so it was a good trade. Facts had proven that what Old Zhou said was right. The tree that rises above the forest would be the first one toppled by the wind. In the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, Yang Kai was targeted by many disciples from various cave heavens and paradises, especially Pei Wen Xian from Myriad Demon Heaven and In Xian Zhao from Xian Yuan Cave Heaven, both of whom repeatedly tried to kill him. Yang Kai did not expect that the person who came to Voidland with Chu Huashang was actually Old Zhou. He had always thought it was some master from Yin Yang Heaven who was sent to protect Chu Huashang. Now that he thought about it, though, this situation made more sense. Now that Chu Huashang was a sixth-order master, despite not having full control of her strength, there were not many left in this world who could threaten her. All the high-rank open heaven realm masters were old monsters, so who would embarrass a junior for nothing? Yang Kai was of course an exception. He stood out too much and represented a future threat that forced 2 high-rank open heaven realm masters to secretly establish the 100 Sect Alliance. In the end, these 2 masters were forced to act personally, but were ultimately deterred by 2 divine spirits. Why is Old Zhou here instead of tending to Thousand Bird Star City's Azura Arena? And with senior sister Chu too? For what reason have you come today? Yang Kai asked suspiciously. Chu Huashang replied, This senior sister met Manager Zhou right outside Voidland. We didn't make any arrangements in advance. Manager Zhou asked me to help bring him in, probably because he had something to discuss with junior brother Yang. The people of the cave heavens and paradises were more or less allies. Chu Huashang had also been to Thousand Birds Star City, so she naturally recognized Manager Zhou. Chu Huashang could not refuse if Manager Zhou made such a request, and it wasn't a big deal anyway. Yang Kai would not blame her for this, so she made the decision on her own. Manager Zhou smiled slightly. This old master is here to discuss something with Sect Master Yang. Yang Kai's eyes flashed before replying with a smile. Please come in and talk. They were guests after all, so Yang Kai could not let them stand outside forever. That would be quite rude. The two of them entered while Bian Yuqing made arrangements for the maidservants to serve fruit and tea before leaving. After taking a few sips of tea and saying a few pleasantries, Manager Zhou got down to business. This old master is here on the orders from the master sect. There are two things for which we would like to partner with Voidland. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. Partner? Indeed. Manager Zhou nodded. Yang Kai played with the teacup in his hand and asked, Didn't old Zhou hear about the battle that happened in Voidland recently? The 100 Sect Alliance suddenly ambushed us and Voidland was forced to fight back. The battle resulted in over 10,000 casualties, including countless open heaven realm masters. Various cave heavens and paradises are already openly targeting me. Are you not afraid that you might upset others if Azura Cave Heaven does business with me? Manager Zhou chuckled. Even Sect Master Yang said that it was the 100 Sect Alliance that invaded your Voidland. It has nothing to do with the cave heavens and paradises. Yang Kai looked at him with a half-smile. Manager Zhou shifted his gaze uncomfortably before lightly clearing his throat. Sect Master Yang is a worldly man. There's no need to state things so bluntly. The 100 Sect Alliance seemingly had the upper hand, and they knew well about your Voidland, but still ended up in a disastrous defeat. Even Kong Feng was captured in the end. Otherwise, those two would not have shown up rashly. Yang Kai replied lightly, Does Manager Zhou mean that my Voidland should have been breached and all of our 600,000 disciples living here should have been ruthlessly exterminated? Manager Zhou noticed his displeased expression, then quickly added, Sect Master Yang is too serious. This old master did not mean to imply that. Yang Kai softly snorted. Manager Zhou continued solemnly. What this old master meant to say was that even the 100 Sect Alliance couldn't defeat Voidland, and unless the cave heavens and paradises take action themselves, no one can do anything to Voidland in the 3,000 worlds. Now Voidland even has two divine spirits protecting it, with one of them being Bai Shi, who has lived for countless millennia. One would have to gather at least 5 8th-order open heaven realm masters if they wanted to take down Voidland without suffering disastrous losses. Has Bai Shi's identity been exposed? Yang Kai's heart clenched. However, it was not surprising when he thought about it. It was not something that could be hidden any longer after so many people witnessed Voidland's blatant migration. It doesn't mean that the cave heavens and paradises are not capable of dispatching such a lineup. Every cave heaven and paradise has extraordinary heritage, so which one of them does not have at least a few 8th-order open heaven realm masters? It's just that those 8th-order open heaven realm masters have long since stopped caring about worldly affairs, and are always cultivating in retreat. They will not show up unless a true disaster appears. So it's essentially impossible to gather 5 8th-order open heaven realm masters. Manager Zhou explained eloquently, so Sect Master Yang, as long as Voidland does not threaten the existence of any cave heaven or paradise, there will be no more worries. No one would dare to attack Voidland again. Yang Kai smiled slightly. So is that why Azura Cave Heaven wants to partner with me? Manager Zhou replied sternly. Voidland is also qualified to partner with my Azura Cave Heaven. Yang Kai pondered for a while before nodding. In regards to what, does Azura Cave Heaven want to partner with me? Manager Zhou answered, Sect Master Yang has been to the Azura Arena, so you should know that it is my Azura Cave Heaven's biggest source of income and one of its most important training facilities. All other first-class star cities have their own Azura arenas. Even some second-class star cities have Azura arenas. Now that Void Star City is so popular and it is still continuing to rise, Azura Cave Heaven naturally doesn't want to miss out on such an opportunity, so the Master Sect has sent this old master here to build an Azura arena. I see. So that's the proposal. Yang Kai nodded lightly. Yang Kai has experienced the popularity of the Azura arena. As a place that used violence to solve all matters, the Azura Arena was a good place for hot-tempered cultivators with grievances that could not be resolved with words, or for bloodthirsty cultivators who were hindered by various rules to vent out their frustrations. That was the reason why the Azura Arena was so well-liked. When Void Star City was rebuilt and the new governor's mansion established, the law enforcement team were deployed and anyone who dared to start a quarrel or stir up trouble would all be quickly suppressed and captured. In this way, although the order of the Star City could be maintained, grudges and grievances would inevitably rise up in the long run. Some things were better to be allowed to happen than to be prevented. If an Azura Arena was built in the Star City, it would be a good place to settle such issues and for those who like to cause trouble to vent. Furthermore, the existence of the Azura Arena could definitely enhance the popularity of the Star City and drive its development even further. This was a win-win situation for Voidland and Azura Heaven. Xianxia had no reason to disagree. So after just a moment of contemplation, Xianxia nodded and agreed. This Yang is glad that Azura Cave Heaven is willing to build an Azura Arena in my Void Star City, but Voidland will need to participate in this venture. Manager Zhou frowned. What does Sect Master Yang mean? Xianxia replied, the land required for the Azura Arena will be provided by Voidland free of rent or taxes, but Voidland will require 30% of the profits made. Manager Zhou gaped at him but quickly smiled. Sect Master Yang, isn't your appetite a little too big? If the Star City was a goose that laid golden eggs, the auction house and Azura Arena would be the biggest and heaviest eggs. The auction house was independently operated by Voidland and no one else could intervene at all. It was the one and only auction house in the entire Void Star City, and Voidland was still not satisfied and wanted to intervene in the Azura Arena too. This was an extraordinarily large appetite. Xianxia chuckled. Is it that big? I don't think so. Old Zhou is a sensible person. My Void Star City has only been established for a trivial few months, yet it has already become so popular and is far from reaching its peak. One can imagine what the future will be like. Millions of cultivators will flow through the city regularly, and Azura Cave Heaven building an Azura Arena in my Star City would be equivalent to planting a tree that grows leaves of money here. Voidland will provide you with the venue, free of rent, free of tax, for just a 30% share of the profits. This deal is more than fair. Manager Zhou frowned as he spoke. Sect Master Yang, Azura Arena is one of the most important industries of my Azura Cave Heaven, and there is no room for any mistakes. Can you change the conditions? Xianxia shook his head slowly. Old Zhou, don't tell me that no other great force takes a share of the Azura Arena's profits in other cities. As far as I know, Great Battle Heaven takes a significant share of the profits earned by the Azura Arena in Thousand Bird Star City. Yes? Why is it that Great Battle Heaven is cut in but my Voidland isn't? Is it because my Voidland is not good enough for Azura Cave Heaven? Old Zhou hurriedly answered. Sect Master Yang is too serious. This old master never said as such. Although he was a manager from Azura Cave Heaven and also a Fifth-Order Open Heaven Realm Master, he did not dare to be offensive in the slightest inside Voidland. This was the place where hundreds of Open Heaven Realm Masters recently died, and with two mature divine spirits keeping watch, who dared to underestimate Voidland. No other second-class great force could make someone like Manager Zhou set his pride aside like this. After pondering for a while, Old Zhou offered, Sect Master Yang is right. Many other great forces do share profits of the Azura Arenas, but no one has ever taken 30%. Even Great Battle Heaven only gets 20% of the profits from the Azura Arena in Thousand Birds Star City. How about this? This old master will offer Voidland 10%. Does that sound good? 30%, nothing less. Xianxia shook his head slowly. Old Zhou smiled bitterly. Sect Master Yang, such a price is unreasonable. 30% is really non-negotiable. Xianxia flicked off imaginary dust on his clothes and smiled. I only intend to allow Azura Cave Heaven to establish an Azura Arena in the Star City because the name of Azura Arena is well known, making it convenient for advertisement. But even without the Azura Arena, I can well build a similar venue on my own in the Star City with a similar name like Blood Arena. What do you think? Old Zhou's face twitched slightly, completely speechless. Then again, if Xianxia really planned to build a Blood Arena and completely cut out Azura Cave Heaven, there was really nothing they could do. Azura Cave Heaven was one of the 36 cave heavens, so the existence or loss of a single Azure arena did not matter much to the master sect, but it meant a great deal to Manager Zhou, who was just a trivial manager. The matter could bring him a lot of benefits, so it was not something he could just ignore. After a while of careful consideration, Manager Zhou spoke, 30% is really too much. This old master can't make such a decision on his own and will need to consult his superiors. But if Sect Master Yang can agree to another condition, this old master can guarantee that the master sect will agree to this proposal. Another condition? Yang Kai raised his eyebrows slightly. Manager Zhou smiled. This is the second matter this old master is here to discuss with Sect Master Yang. Yang Kai gestured for him to continue. Manager Zhou coughed lightly. I heard that your noble sect has auctioned 2 heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills in recent months. I was wondering if that was true or not. Yang Kai knew that this old guy was really here for the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills, so his expression remained unchanged as he snickered silently to himself. After waiting for such a long time, it seemed things were finally getting started. Yang Kai nodded lightly. Good, Voidland did auction 2 heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills. Manager Zhou's expression brightened. And it was said that the Void Auction House will host an auction every 3 months from now on, where a heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill will be auctioned. Correct. Manager Zhou's eyes sparkled a little as he asked. So, does that mean that your noble sect is capable of refining this lost ancient pill? Could it be that your noble sect has found a source of world source liquid? When he asked the question, Chu Huashang, who had been silent all the time, also had her beautiful eyes flash as she stared eagerly at Yang Kai. Yang Kai smiled without answering. Manager Zhou continued, before the Blood Monster Cave heaven opened, Red Cloud's auction house once auctioned a heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill and the recipe for this pill. As far as I know, those items were won by Sect Master Yang, but the spirit pill was exchanged for a 7th-order primordial Yang profound ginseng with an elder from Sword Pavilion while the pill recipe was left. But according to the recipe, World Source Liquid was required to refine the spirit pill, and World Source Liquid has long since disappeared from the 3,000 worlds. Now that Voidland is able to take out a heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill every 3 months for auction, it could only mean that Voidland had found a way to obtain World Source Liquid. There is no other explanation for why so many rare spirit pills could be auctioned. The extinction of the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill was because of the extinction of World Source Liquid. It was a treasure that was formed by chance when a new world was born. Where could it be found now? This situation was inevitable, and Yang Kai had already expected this would happen when he decided to use the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill to help bolster the popularity of his star city. Taking a sip of his tea, Yang Kai smiled. Blood Monster Divine Monarch left many good things behind inside the Blood Monster Divine Palace, including some World Source Liquid. Manager Zhou looked at him hesitantly, not sure if he should believe him. However, obviously the timing fit. Yang Kai obtained the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill and its pill recipe before the Blood Monster Cave heaven opened, and the spirit pill was only first auctioned in the Star City after the Blood Monster Cave heaven collapsed. It was entirely possible that Yang Kai really got World Source Liquid from Blood Monster Cave heaven. Yang Kai moved the conversation forward with a smile. Does Azura Cave heaven also need this heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill? Manager Zhou replied, who wouldn't want such a spirit pill? I'm afraid that many from the cave heavens and paradises have quietly entered Void Star City waiting for the next auction. Don't tell me that you, Sect Master Yang, are unaware of this. It did not matter for the other cave heavens and paradises whether they snuck in or announced their presence, but it was different for Azura Cave Heaven. If they really wanted to build an Azura Arena here, they would have to show up sooner or later. The Azura Arena was a symbol of Azura Cave Heaven, and that was the reason Manager Zhou visited Yang Kai. However, he had no idea what Yang Kai's impression towards the cave heavens and paradises were after the previous battle, so he asked Chu Huashang to help bring him in, just in case that he got rejected by Yang Kai after notifying him of his visit. Yang Kai put down the teacup and asked bluntly, how many does Azura Cave Heaven need? Manager Zhou chuckled, the more the better, of course. Yang Kai burst out laughing. Does old Zhou think that the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills are cabbages? If I hadn't needed financial resources for Voidland and needed to build up my star city, I would never have sold a single heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill to the public. These are very rare, and I don't have much world source liquid on hand, so it will run out from refining some of these spirit pills. Manager Zhou nodded in reply. This old master understands that. How about this? If Sect Master Yang sells 10 of these spirit pills to Azura Cave Heaven, this old master will guarantee Sect Master Yang's request regarding the Azura Arena is granted. 10? Manager Zhou sure does know how to open his mouth wide. Yang Kai's face stiffened. Manager Zhou chuckled heartily. We will never take advantage of Voidland. We will offer 8 million for each spirit pill. What do you say? Yang Kai nodded. The price is very fair, but 10 is really too many. Voidland doesn't have such a quantity. The look on Yang Kai's face showed Manager Zhou that he was probably pushing a little too hard. Of course, if he knew that Yang Kai had given heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills to people trying to advance to the second order open heaven realm, he would have coughed up 10 mouthfuls of blood and died on the spot. These extremely coveted spirit pills really weren't treated much differently than cabbages in Voidland. If 10 is too many, 8 will do, no fewer. 3 pieces max. Manager Zhou was a little speechless. 3 is just too few. Sect Master Yang is too stingy. Yang Kai replied sternly, I'm not stingy, I really can't come up with more. Manager Zhou urged further. How about 5? Yang Kai tapped the armrest of the chair lightly and pondered for a long time before he spoke. Since Manager Zhou has made a proposition, allow me to make a counteroffer. If Manager Zhou can agree to this condition, I don't even want the 30% share from the Azura Arena. Not only that, I will also give you the 5 heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills free of charge. Manager Zhou's face became excited at the words. What is it that Sect Master Yang wants? Yang Kai raised a finger. A high rank in element treasure. The excitement on Manager Zhou's face was immediately replaced by bitterness. As he muttered embarrassedly, Sect Master Yang, aren't you intentionally making things difficult? Yang Kai replied, Azura Cave Heaven runs many industries and has existed for eons. A single high-rank-in element treasure is surely just a drop in the bucket for you. How is asking for one making things difficult? Sect Master Yang should know that what this old master referred to was not the value of this high-rank material. Manager Zhou replied exasperatedly. After a pause, he continued, since ancient times, despite the 36 cave heavens and 72 paradises having occasional disputes, we have always been generally united, especially regarding certain sensitive issues. Now that Voidland is guarded by 2 divine spirits, I'm afraid no one would be interested in provoking it anymore, but that doesn't mean that some people will condone Sect Master Yang's direct advancement to the high-rank open heaven realm. If they really find out that we, Azura Cave Heaven, provided you with a high-ranking element treasure, how will Azura Cave Heaven keep its foothold in the 3,000 worlds in the future? Having said this, he persuaded earnestly again. Sect Master Yang is truly a dragon amongst men, but you should take a step back and endure for a while. Why bother taking the risk of challenging the ancient order of the 3,000 worlds? With Sect Master Yang's aptitude, even if you achieve the 6th order open heaven realm, you will still be able to soar. It's better to follow the current than swim against the river. Yang Kai snorted at the words. Whose order? What current? I, Yang Kai, entered this vast universe only concerned about my own cultivation. I have never sought trouble with or offended others intentionally, so I will not allow others to stand in the way of my grand Tao. Manager Zhou asked with a bitter face, Can Sect Master Yang change his conditions? Yang Kai shook his head slowly. I cannot. Manager Zhou couldn't help but smile bitterly, and after pondering for a long time, he said, This matter is very important, and this old master can't make the decision. I will need to consult my superiors for instructions, but Sect Master Yang, I think there is a good chance that those in charge will not agree to your demands. Yang Kai said in response, Manager Zhou, just ask. Whether they agree or not is up to them. Then, all right? Now that it had come to this, there was no need for further discussion. Each of them had put forward their own requirements and conditions. The only thing remaining was to see whether the 2 sides could reach an agreement on the issue. It was not something for Manager Zhou to decide, so he stood up and said, "Good, this old master will leave first and deal with this matter." Yang Kai personally sent him out of the reception hall before returning. Chu Huashang, wrapped in a fragrant scent, rushed to Yang Kai's side and stretched out her hand without hesitation and took his arm. With her large twin peaks pressing up against his arm, she delicately called out, "Junior brother?" Yang Kai looked at her with narrowed eyes and said with a headache, "Does senior sister have something to say? I promise I will never refuse if it is something I can do." Chu Huashang smiled and exhaled a breath filled with the scent of an orchid in Yang Kai's ear. "I knew junior brother was the best." About those heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills, Yang Kai pulled his arms out of Chu Huashang's grasp and said with a smile while he faced her directly, "Before senior sister speaks, could she please confirm whether she came to Void Land this time for herself or for Inyang Cave Heaven?" Chu Huashang's long lashes fluttered when she blinked. "Is there a difference?" Yang Kai smiled and said, "Senior sister, do you have to ask me that? Junior brother, you're so ruthless." Chu Huashang's face was filled with resentment, like she was a weak woman abandoned by Yang Kai after a thoughtless night of fun, which would make one feel sorry for her. "Why ask such a cruel question, junior brother? Did you forget how tightly we held one another in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven just to stay warm?" Yang Kai said sternly, "It is precisely because I remember that I have to ask clearly." Chu Huashang gave him a charming look. This woman had originally already been a seductress, but now that she had advanced to the open heaven realm, she had become more and more enchanting. Yang Kai sat down and drank his tea without looking at her. Chu Huashang, annoyed, came to sit down beside him angrily, after which she puffed up her cheeks and said, "Since junior brother wants to distinguish between public and private affairs, let's talk about proper business first." Yang Kai gestured in agreement. Chu Huashang continued, "My Inyang Cave Heaven would like to buy some heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills from junior brother." "No," Yang Kai replied immediately. Chu Huashang glared at him fiercely, slapped the table and said, "Just now you and old Zhou said that you would sell 3 to Azura Cave Heaven." Yang Kai said slowly, "Naturally, that was the last available stock." Chu Huashang's chest heaved as she grit her teeth and said, "You will not suffer a loss in terms of price, junior brother. I can make the decision on that." Yang Kai thought for a while, then smiled. "If Inyang Cave Heaven can sell me a high rank in element treasure, junior brother, you should give up on that. Those old farts agreeing to this condition is absolutely impossible." Chu Huashang said speechlessly, "No matter how high a price you offer, it won't happen." Yang Kai raised his brow and asked, "Is senior sister certain?" Chu Huashang gently nodded. "I don't dare to say anything else, but what old Zhou said was right. The attitudes maintained by the cave heavens and paradises are firm and united. No one will sell you a high rank in element treasure." Yang Kai frowned. Seeing that he was in a low mood, Chu Huashang also slightly regretted that she had spoken too much and swiftly changed the subject. "Junior brother, what if it is I, your senior sister, who wants heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills?" Yang Kai casually asked. "How many does senior sister need?" Chu Huashang looked at him in disbelief. "Do you have that many of them?" Yang Kai smiled slightly. "I don't have a lot, but it should meet senior sister Chu's needs." Chu Huashang fidgeted for a while before muttering awkwardly, 5. "No, 3 is enough." As soon as she finished speaking, Yang Kai put a jade bottle in front of her. Chu Huashang picked it up and opened it, only to see that there were 5 spirit pills inside. Although she had never seen this spirit pill before, she was certain that they were heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills. With some slight shock, Chu Huashang called out, "Junior brother, you?" She was now an open heaven realm master, so naturally she had no need for these spirit pills. It was not possible that Yang Kai was unaware of this, but he still took out 5 of them the instant she asked. Yang Kai followed up, "In the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, if it were not for senior sister's unwavering support, I am afraid that the consequences would have been disastrous. No cost can be put on a life-saving grace, so a few trivial spirit pills is nothing. Senior sister asked for them, so how can I, as your junior brother, refuse?" Chu Huashang was deeply moved, and has squeezed the jade bottle in her hand tightly. She whispered, "Junior brother, thank you." Putting away the jade bottle, Chu Huashang added, "There is one more thing that I need the help of junior brother for." "Senior sister, please speak." When I came this time, I was also ordered by my master to come to your Void Star City to set up a Tao temple, but I came a little late, and the better locations were taken away by others, so, Yang Kai nodded knowingly, but was also a little puzzled. Why does Inyang Cave Heaven want to set up a Tao temple? Could it be to open the door to accept disciples? But there's no need to do that in this star city. Chu Huashang smiled. You should have some understanding of the situation in Inyang Cave Heaven. Disciples, whether male or female, need to find a partner when the time is right, but how difficult is it to find a partner who is suitable for them and can accompany them for a lifetime? Even if they do find someone appealing, they may not be willing to marry into Inyang Cave Heaven. She glanced at Yang Kai accusingly as she spoke. Yang Kai looked down his nose, ignoring her stare. That's why some of the outstanding disciples from Inyang Cave Heaven need to go out for life experience and to mingle with fellow cultivators in various Tao temples, so as to find a good match. So that's how it is. Yang Kai nodded. Inyang Cave Heaven was trying to use this as a way to recruit people under them and enhance their own strength. A simple matter. I'll have second manager accompany you and let you choose whichever location you need for your Tao temple. Then this senior sister will thank junior brother in advance. Chu Huashang thanked him, and after a pause, pursed her lips and smiled. Now that proper business is over, let's talk about private affairs. Yang Kai looked at her suspiciously. What else does senior sister want to talk about? Chu Huashang blushed slightly and replied shyly, could it be that junior brother forgot what I told you in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven? Those words are still valid now, so if you could agree, she now seemed like a young lady, one who would grasp everyone's attention. Yang Kai wanted to ask what was going on, but when he saw her eyes, he understood everything. In the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, Chu Huashang wanted to recruit Yang Kai on behalf of Inyang Cave Heaven, bluntly saying that she hoped that he could enter Inyang Cave Heaven, the premise being only after she broke through to the open heaven realm. However, at that time, Chu Huashang was still just an emperor realm cultivation, and had not yet reached the open heaven realm, so she needed to fall in love with Yang Kai and cut off her emotions to reach a grand accomplishment in the Heartless Grand Tao. But now that she was in the sixth order open heaven realm, what was the point of mentioning this? Chu Huashang added, if junior brother becomes my partner, there's no need for you to join Inyang Cave Heaven since you are now the Lord of Voidland. We only need to maintain it in name. If you want to stay in Voidland, you can stay here, or if you want to come to Inyang Cave Heaven, you can do that too. Yang Kai looked at her and said, is this what you want, senior sister? Or is this what Inyang Cave Heaven wants? Chu Huashang lowered her head, twisted her hands around the corners of her clothes, and said softly, it doesn't matter whose wish it is. What matters is what junior brother thinks. Seeing her act this way, Yang Kai was touched to know that Inyang Cave Heaven had not requested this. Rather, it was completely pursued by Chu Huashang herself. She wanted to use Inyang Cave Heaven to shield him, even at the expense of her own reputation. He hurriedly got up and bowed. Senior sister's good intentions, this junior brother has received them, but I am only one step away. If I can't take this step, my Tao heart will forever be obscured. And even if I achieve the sixth order open heaven realm, I am afraid that it will become difficult to continue in the future. Hearing this, Chu Huashang sighed. Although she had expected it, she was still a little disappointed to hear Yang Kai say this. She raised her head and said with a smile, senior sister admires junior brother's firm will in the pursuit of the martial Tao. I will be stationed in this star city in the future, so maybe I will come visit you in your void land from time to time. I hope it won't be too troublesome when the time comes. Yang Kai laughed. I'd like nothing more. How could it be troublesome? Chu Huashang stood up. Then I'll say take my leave first. I'll return when matters related to the Tao Temple have been settled. Yang Kai got up to send her off, and at the same time summoned Bian Yuqing to accompany her to the governor's residence to help her choose the location for the Tao Temple. Once the arrangements were made, Yang Kai entered retreat once more. However, before he could start cultivating, he noticed that the isolation barrier had been touched and frowned. He opened the barrier, and Bian Yuqing walked in from the outside. Sect Master, has Chu Huashang's business arrangements been completed? Yang Kai asked. Bian Yuqing said, yes, the arrangements have been made. As she spoke, she took out a wooden box and handed it to Yang Kai. What is this? Yang Kai asked suspiciously. Bian Yuqing looked at him with a puzzled face. Isn't this something that sect master left behind? Some disciples saw it while cleaning the reception hall, and thought it was something that the sect master had accidentally dropped. So they handed it over to this mistress. Yang Kai laughed. How could I have left something behind? It should be senior sister Chu's. Go and return the box to her. Bian Yuqing replied, Sect master, if this was really Lady Chu's, then it can't be sent back, since this should be her gift to you. She is a sixth order open heaven realm. How could she have taken out and then forgotten a box for no reason? When Yang Kai heard this, he pondered over it. After Chu Huashang entered the reception hall, he hadn't seen her take out this box. Only after she left did a disciple discover it, which made it apparent that Chu Huashang had left it behind on purpose. Her cultivation was now much higher than Yang Kai's, so if she wanted to do something covertly, he would not be able to discover it. If it wasn't for the disciples who saw it while cleaning the reception hall, it would not have been found. The contents of this box should be very valuable, Bian Yuqing casually stated. Why do you say so? Yang Kai raised his brow. She must have secretly left it behind because it is precious and she knew sect master would not accept it if she passed it to you directly. Bian Yuqing made a slight bow. If there is nothing else, the subordinate will retire first. After Bian Yuqing left, Yang Kai held the jade box in his hand, slightly dazed. He didn't know what Chu Huashang left for him before she left, but he vaguely felt that what his second manager said was not unreasonable. The box was blocked by a seal, but the method to unlock it was not too troublesome. Yang Kai used a secret technique and opened the box, but after seeing what was inside, he was slightly startled. The contents of the box were indeed, as Bian Yuqing said, extremely valuable and not just ordinarily valuable either. It contained a 7th order Yang element monster core. This was clearly the one Chu Huashang obtained in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven. At that time, she and Yang Kai comprehended the grand evolution Immortal Blood Light scripture and crossed the Blood Lake to reach the Central Palace. On the third island, Chu Huashang obtained a 7th order Yang element monster core, while Yang Kai only got a 5th order core, which made him envious. 7th order materials in general were worth at least 150 million open heaven pills, while materials of the Yin or Yang element would be even higher than that. Yang Kai originally bid for a 7th order primordial Yang profound ginseng at an exchange meeting, and it had cost him a great fortune. If such a 7th order Yang element monster core was put up for auction, it would definitely cause a huge scramble and it could easily be sold for 200 million open heaven pills. But now, such an item worth at least 200 million was deliberately left here by Chu Huashang for Yang Kai. It was only now that Yang Kai understood why Chu Huashang accepted the 5 heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills he had given her without hesitation, and never asked how much they were worth. It turned out that she had already planned on compensating him with this. 5 heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pills were worth a lot, but they were nothing compared to a 7th order Yang element monster core. She also knew that he wouldn't accept it, so she left it behind secretly. Being a disciple of Yin Cave Heaven, she could not help Yang Kai by what he needed from her own sect, and could only help him within her own abilities. Since this thing did not belong to Yin Cave Heaven and was instead something she owned personally, she had the right to do whatever she pleased with it. Yang Kai was extremely grateful and solemnly put away the 7th order monster core. A few days later, the Void Auction House's third auction began. The Void Auction House was filled to the brim today. The auction house, which was built by Yun Xinghua himself, had an atmosphere of magnificence. It was constructed according to Yang Kai's requirements and could accommodate 10,000 people with ease in the main floor and had many private rooms for VIP guests. Compared to the previous 2 auctions, this one was undoubtedly of a higher standard. Because the Star City now had a resounding reputation and a much higher population, many people that had great treasures and had no way to sell them entrusted them to the auction house to auction on their behalf. The Void Auction House was naturally happy to do so, so the auction conducted this time was much livelier and fiery than the previous 2. The Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill, which was the finale item, broke through the 10 million mark easily and was eventually won by a master in one of the private rooms. In room A1, Yang Kai was sitting in a chair with Bian Yuqing accompanying him by his side. Seemingly sensing Yang Kai's anticipation, Bian Yuqing said, "Sect Master, it's time." Yang Kai gently nodded, rubbing his fingers unconsciously. In the past 2 auctions, the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill marked the end, but this time was different. On the auction stage, Yun Xinghua said loudly, "Honored guests, today we have a special item we would like to present, and I believe many will certainly be interested in it." In the auction house, the people who were about to leave stopped and looked towards Yun Xinghua curiously. The Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill had already been auctioned off. So what else did Voidland have to offer? Was it more precious than the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill? In front of everyone's eyes, Yun Xinghua took out a wooden box, used a secret technique to open its seal, and declared loudly, "A 7th Order Yang Element Monster Core from the Blood Monster Cave Heaven." The audience immediately flew into an uproar. Although the auction held by Void Auction House was quite good this time and many high-class items had appeared, no one had imagined that such a valuable item would appear. Even top auction houses like Red Cloud's Auction House, which belonged to Red Cloud's Cave Heaven, would often have 7th Order items for sale. From the private rooms, powerful divine senses undisguisedly swarmed towards the wooden box to check whether it really was true. Although Yun Xinghua was a 4th Order Open Heaven Master, cold sweat oozed from his forehead due to the pressure that was like a mountain engulfing him at that moment. He felt like he was a little sheep that was being targeted by a bunch of hungry wolves. Suppressing the trepidation in his heart, Yun Xinghua took a deep breath and continued, "This item is not for auction and only an exchange will be accepted. My Void Auction House would like to exchange this for a 7th Order in Element Treasure. If anyone has something suitable, please contact me, and rest assured, my Void Auction House will definitely give enough compensation." Yun Xinghua looked around and waited for a long time, but no one made a sound. In room A1, Yang Kai also monitored the situation, but he did not feel too disappointed to see no response since he had expected this. This time was just a publicity stunt. Yang Kai believed that due to this announcement, the news that Void Auction House was trying to exchange a 7th Order Yang Element Treasure for a 7th Order In Element Treasure would soon spread, and anyone who met the conditions would take the initiative to approach them. Of course, this was provided that this person was not from any of the cave heavens nor paradises. Yang Kai was confident that in this way the matter regarding his need for a high-rank In Element Treasure would be known to the entire 3,000 worlds. Yang Kai wanted to act secretively, but he had already revealed the fact that he had condensed multiple high-order elements. Anyone who was interested in him could deduce what elements he currently lacked. There was no harm in letting others know that he needed In Element Treasure now. This was probably not something that he would get in a short period of time. He might have to wait for a long time, maybe 3 to 5 years, several dozen years, or even hundreds of years, but Yang Kai could wait. Compared to the pursuit of the martial Tao, a small wait was but a trivial matter. Moreover, he was still young and he had only recently entered the vast outer universe. In a trivial 20 or 30 years, he had already accomplished what ordinarily took others hundreds if not thousands of years to complete. He had enough qualifications to wait it out. While waiting, he could also accumulate and fortify his foundation, paving a smoother road to his future, thus saving himself time and effort when he eventually did break through. Void Auction House held an auction every 3 months, and the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill was the finale item every single time. Even though one was sold every 3 months, the price of this item only got higher with time. After all, there were too many cultivators that needed this kind of spirit pill. Which cave heaven or paradise did not have a few core disciples? When these disciples advanced to the open heaven realm, even if they were well prepared, and even if they had great confidence in themselves, accidents could always occur. Throughout the ages, how many geniuses had fallen due to tiny mistakes, vanishing from the annals of history? If those cave heavens and paradises wanted their disciples to advance to the open heaven realm successfully, the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill was the best guarantee. Across the 3,000 worlds, the only place a Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pill could be acquired was Void Auction House. Void Star City's popularity was booming, and it had only taken a trivial year to become crowded. The Void Dock now had to limit the flow of people entering the city, because every moment, there were more flight-type artifacts queuing up outside, waiting to be let in. Only when people inside left were people outside allowed to enter. Bian Yuqing was planning on expanding the size of Star City, because under the current situation, it was already somewhat unable to meet its high popularity. But she was overruled by Yang Kai after she made this proposal. Voidland had sprung up suddenly and had been growing too fast, leading to a lack of experience in various matters. So right now they had to focus on gaining stability, not endless expansion. Therefore, even though he knew that expanding the Star City could bring even greater profits, Yang Kai did not agree to it. Since there were two divine spirits in Voidland, Yang Kai felt that as long as he didn't go out and cause trouble, the cave heavens and paradises wouldn't do anything to him. It would not be too late to make plans after he got his high rank in element treasure and advanced to the high rank open heaven realm. One day, when Yang Kai was in the middle of retreat, he felt the barrier being touched, so he opened his eyes. Without an appropriate in-element material, he could not advance to the open heaven realm. He had entered retreat this time only to further his understanding of the elements he had already condensed, hoping he might uncover some kind of new divine ability from them. As such, it wasn't a big problem that he was disturbed. Opening the barrier, Bian Yuqing walked in from outside. Yang Kai asked, "Does senior sister Chu need something again?" In the past 6 months, Chu Huashang had opened a Dao temple in the Star City. She had just advanced to the open heaven realm, so she had spent most of her time there for 2 reasons. One was to maintain the stability of the Dao temple itself, and the other was to consolidate her new cultivation. Yang Kai had also been to the Dao temple once and participated in discussions about the Grand Dao, but he used 7 faces to change his appearance and aura to do so. He found that the so-called Grand Dao discourse was actually just a group of young attractive people gathering together to market themselves, which wasn't of any interest to him. But Yinyang Cave Heaven had a need for this kind of place, since it was full of beautiful women and handsome men looking to find partners. From time to time, Chu Huashang would come to Voidland to look for Yang Kai. It was never for any serious reason and instead just to casually chat with him. Yang Kai knew that she wanted him to join Yinyang Cave Heaven, but she never broached the topic directly. Naturally, since Bian Yuqing had come to alert him of a guest, he immediately thought it was that seductress again. But Bian Yuqing shook her head and reported, "It is not Lady Chu who is looking for you, but a young man named Fang Yu. He says he is an old acquaintance of sect masters." Fang Yu. Yang Kai frowned slightly, vaguely feeling that this name was familiar, as if he had heard of it somewhere, but it did not immediately ring a bell. After thinking carefully, Yang Kai finally remembered that among the people he knew, there was only one guy named Fang Yu, whom he met in the primordial land of the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary. But there was not much of a friendship between them, as Yang Kai simply brought him out from the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary at the end of the Spirit-Seizing War. However, there were quite a lot of people who were brought out by Yang Kai at that time, all of whom were chosen by the various divine spirits as bearers but had the misfortune of losing the battle to Yang Kai. Yang Kai still had a lot of faith tokens left behind by these disciples of various great forces. These young people had left these tokens with Yang Kai in the hopes that, if he had time in the future, he would visit their sects so they could show their appreciation for the life-saving grace he had shown them. Yang Kai did save their lives, after all. If he did not use the sealed world bead to bring them out, many of them might have been killed by the enraged divine spirits backing them. However, now that he was seen by some cave heavens and paradises as a threat to peace and order, they may have to rethink their proposal, since befriending Yang Kai could bring disaster to their sects. So even though Yang Kai had now become Voidland's sect master, and the battle that ended with the destruction of the 100 Sects Alliance had made Voidland famous, no one had come to visit. Fang Yu was not like them and obviously did not share their worries, since he was a loner, not associated with any great force. If Yang Kai remembered correctly, the divine spirit that stood behind this guy at that time was the solid earth black tortoise, and then in the primordial land, he acquired a divine medicine, the 1,000-leaf stone lotus. Both of these combined basically made his defenses impregnable. There were a number of divine medicines in the primordial land. Yang Kai got Pu Bai Xiong and the little mushroom. Fang Yu got the 1,000-leaf stone lotus, and a guy named Xiang Ying got the purple bamboo. The divine medicine Aku was obtained by an unknown cultivator, and a man surnamed Go obtained the gourd vine initially, but he was killed by Yang Kai, which led to the gourd vine falling into Yang Kai's hands. Thus, Yang Kai obtained 3 of the 6 known divine medicines. Divine medicines each had tremendous effects. Taking Pu Bai Xiong as an example, each of the berries on his head had unimaginable healing efficacies, and even a man half a step through the gates of death could be brought back to full health by eating one. In the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, when Yang Kai was being chased by an Xianxia, if he had a berry from Pu Bai Xiong on hand, he would not have fallen into such a miserable state. So, when Yang Kai came back after that, ignoring Pu Bai Xiong's strong protests, he took a berry to keep for emergencies, earning him Pu Bai Xiong ire for several days. Little Mushroom evolved from a profound multicolored illusionary mushroom which had unparalleled natural hallucinogenic powers. Yang Kai placed her in the 9 heavenly layers grand array as the array core of the illusion array, strengthening both even further. The 1,000-leaf stone lotus had supreme defensive power. The purple bamboo that Xiangying had could suppress all types of principles, while the gourd vine could exert power equal to the strength displayed by a 5th-order open heaven realm master. The only thing Yang Kai didn't understand was what divine medicine Aku was, and since his master had never used it to do anything, there was no way to guess. Yang Kai had never thought of exploiting the life-saving grace he had shown to those people, so when he first heard of Feng Yu's visit, he didn't have much of a reaction at all. But after a moment of contemplation, he suddenly understood why this guy had come at this time. If things were really as he guessed, perhaps Void Land could gain a powerful master in the near future. If Sect Master doesn't want to see him, this subordinate will turn him down. Seeing Yang Kai hesitate, Bian Yuqing thought that Feng Yu was taking the opportunity to climb the ladder, and felt a little unhappy. Now that Void Land had become famous, such an occurrence would not be unusual. Yang Kai, however, just smiled and said, "Show him in." At his response, Bian Yuqing took out a communication bead and sent a message outside. After waiting for an incense stick's worth of time, a Void Land disciple led a young man with thick brows and big eyes into the reception hall. It was Feng Yu. When he saw Yang Kai, Feng Yu's eyes lit up with a look of relief. He took 2 steps forward and cupped his fist. "Senior brother Yang." "Brother Feng." Yang Kai nodded lightly. Feng Yu looked at him incredulously and said, "When we left the grand ancient ruins boundary, I did not expect that in less than 10 years, Senior Brother Yang would have made such a grand accomplishment. When I heard the name of the Void Land's sect master, this Feng couldn't believe it at first. I thought perhaps it was another man with the same name, but I never thought it would really be Senior Brother Yang. Opportunities and coincidences." Yang Kai smiled and gestured, "Brother Feng, let's sit down and talk." Feng Yu did not stand on ceremony and sat down readily as the maidservant served tea. Yang Kai looked at him and asked, "Does Brother Feng have some advice for me today?" Feng Yu laughed and said, "Senior Brother Yang is now the master of a great force with numerous open heaven realm masters for subordinates. Not to mention, even a great force like Heavenly Sword Union has been defeated by your Void Land. I am but a trivial person with no roots. How can I give you any guidance? I came here today just to thank Senior Brother for saving my life that day." Yang Kai smirked in his heart, but he said with a solemn expression, "What happened that day was just a simple matter. Brother Feng need not worry about it." Feng Yu replied sternly, "To Senior Brother, it may have just been a minor matter, but to this Feng it was a life-saving grace. I was selected as a bearer by that divine spirit in the grand ancient ruins boundary, and spent a lot of effort to cultivate, but the result was a complete failure. I was unable to assist my backer in achieving what he wanted, and without your help, Senior Brother, the consequences would have been dire. I, along with many others, would definitely have been killed by those enraged divine spirits." Yang Kai smiled and said, "Not necessarily. Some divine spirits were actually quite friendly. The divine spirit that took in Gu Pan would not have killed her, but Kuan Sha, the divine spirit that supported Lin Feng, would definitely have eaten Lin Feng alive to vent out his rage. Naturally, each divine spirit had a different temperament and each of them acted in different ways. In any case, Senior Brother's life-saving grace cannot be forgotten." Feng Yu continued, "This Feng is not someone who does not know how to repay the kindness that he receives. The favor from that day has been etched into this Feng's heart. If Senior Brother has any orders, just speak up, and this Feng will never decline." Yang Kai chuckled and said, "Junior Brother Feng is too serious. My Void Land is at peace now, so there is no need to speak of such heavy matters. No matter what it is. This Feng wants to do something to repay this favor. If not, I will not be able to eat and sleep in peace." Fang Yu's face was earnest. It's really fine, Yang Kai said while shaking his head slowly. Fang Yu asked anxiously, when I came here, I passed through the Star City dock and it was quite overcrowded. Does senior brother need manpower to maintain order? Although this Fang's cultivation is low, I will still do my best. Yang Kai said, I have people guarding the dock, so I won't bother Brother Fang. Well, if Brother Fang is free, you might as well spend some time in my Voidland. I still have some things to do, so I won't be able to accompany you further. Saying so, he stood up. Fang Yu rushed up to him in a stride, grabbed Yang Kai's sleeve, and hurriedly said, Senior brother, please stay. Yang Kai turned around and looked at him with a smile. Brother Fang, is there anything else? Fang Yu faltered and blushed slightly, unable to speak. Yang Kai sighed. Brother Fang, just say what you have to say. Why beat around the bush? When Fang Yu saw his expression, he suddenly came to his senses. Senior brother, you already expected me to ask for help? Yang Kai said, I had a guess, but I wasn't sure. Now I am. Brother Fang is here for the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill, right? Fang Yu's face turned slightly red and he looked very embarrassed when Yang Kai said that. Senior brother, this Fang Yu would like to offer his services to you, and hope senior brother will take me in. Yang Kai took a deep look at him and held out his hand. Let's sit down and talk. The two men retook their seats. Yang Kai said slowly, Brother Fang should have a great aptitude to be valued by the solid earth black tortoise and be chosen as his bearer, but sixth-order elements are probably a bit too much for Brother Fang. Of course, the solid earth black tortoise would not care about your future problems. He only wanted Brother Fang to be as strong as possible, so that he could win the first place in the spirit-seizing war. In the grand ancient ruins boundary, the solid earth black tortoise helped Brother Fang to forcibly raise your strength. Right? Fang Yu said with shame, It appears I can't hide anything from senior brother Yang. Yang Kai replied, I was there in the grand ancient ruins boundary as well, and I was chosen to be a bearer, so I know firsthand about such matters. At that time, Zhu Jiao-in also wanted to forcibly raise Yang Kai's strength by making him condense a sixth-order earth element. However, Yang Kai staked his own life against it, forcing her to back down. Furthermore, considering that Yang Kai was originally refining seventh-order elements and his strength was already phenomenal, Zhu Jiao-in was willing to back down. But others, such as Fang Yu, were not so lucky, and were forced by their divine spirits to condense sixth-order or even seventh-order elements. Even taking the entire 3,000 worlds into consideration, those who could condense sixth-order powers and directly achieve the sixth-order open heaven realm were extreme rarities, often core disciples of the cave heavens and paradises. There were only a few of such people in each generation, such as Gu Pan, Chu Huashang, Lin Feng, Ning Dao Ran, and so on. Although Fang Yu and the others had good aptitudes and were valued by the divine spirits, they were still inferior to geniuses like Gu Pan and Chu Huashang. Their limit was the fifth order. Even though forcing them to condense sixth-order elements could grant them more power for a short period of time, allowing them to gain some advantage in the spirit-seizing war, it would leave fatal drawbacks. These drawbacks would become more and more serious as they progressed in their cultivation. By condensing elements beyond what they were capable of bearing, once they tried to break through to the open heaven realm, they would most likely die. Ding Yi, the leader of Emperor Heaven back then, was forced by Bai Fang to condense a seventh-order first element power, but every time he used this power, he suffered a serious backlash. He would look like a cooked crab, all red and steaming hot from overheating. Yang Kai had once asserted that if Ding Yi dared to break through to the open heaven realm, he would die on the spot in 9 out of 10 cases. Fang Yu was now facing the same problem. The only thing that could help him and the others was the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills that Yang Kai had. The spirit pill could greatly increase the chances of success. If Fang Yu took one before attempting to break through, although there was no guarantee of success, the chance of failure would be greatly reduced. However, Fang Yu was only an Emperor Realm cultivator without any background. So how could he earn enough open heaven pills to afford to buy a heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill? Thus, he thought that the only way he could survive was by joining Yang Kai. That was why Fang Yu had approached him today. Fang Yu said with a bitter smile, in the 10 years that I stayed in the grand ancient ruins boundary, this Fang traversed the path that others could not finish even in 100 years. With the assistance of senior solid earth black tortoise, I refined several materials for different elements and advanced straight to the half-step open heaven realm. However, this Fong knows his aptitude very clearly. In this Fong's present situation, I will not be able to bear the impact of advancing to the sixth order open heaven realm. The only possible way to survive would be to instead advance to the third order, but even then the chances are slim. It was easy for him to advance into the third order, since he would only need to refine a third order material. The powers of yin, yang, and 5 elements required to break through to the open heaven realm were like the boards of a wooden barrel. The amount of water that could be stored in the wooden barrel depended entirely on the shortest board, regardless of how tall the others were. But with such a great starting point, how could this Fong be willing to settle for the trivial third-order open heaven realm? These words couldn't help but resonate with Yang Kai because all of them had a high starting point. They couldn't settle for such mediocre achievements. The gap was just too big. Everyone had their own sense of greed, especially when it came to their martial Tao. Once a person had experienced their first breakthrough, they would want to continue. Yang Kai was the same. He was not willing to waste his high starting point with all the rare materials he had condensed. Although he knew that his journey would be full of thorns and tribulations, he still had no intention of backing down. Fong Yu was no different. If it wasn't for the rise of Voidland, if it wasn't for Yang Kai using the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pills to increase the Star City's popularity and make the fame of the Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pills spread throughout the 3,000 worlds, Fong Yu would probably have been resigned to his fate. He would settle for the third-order open heaven realm. Otherwise, he would lose everything and disappear due to the backlash of trying to break through to the sixth-order open heaven realm. However, when he heard that there were Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pills in Voidland, it was like a ray of light had pierced through the fog of darkness. Fong Yu felt a glimmer of hope. That was why he had taken the liberty to visit Yang Kai. However, Yang Kai's Voidland already had a mighty army with the finest arms. What advantages could he, a trivial half-step open heaven realm master, offer Yang Kai in return for such a precious treasure? The only thing he could rely on was the small friendship all of them had in the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary. Now, it seemed as if this trip had not been in vain. Thinking about it, Yang Kai was not a narrow-minded person. He brought out all the bearers from the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary, disregarding their former status as enemies. Instead, it was Fong Yu who had been overly skeptical and pessimistic. Reflecting on this, Fong Yu couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. I naturally welcome Brother Fong if you want to join my Voidland, but does Brother Fong know the current situation of my Voidland? Fong Yu replied, I've heard a little bit about Senior Brother's intention to reach the high-rank open heaven realm directly, which seemed to have touched the nerves of certain powerful figures, leading to targeted discrimination and suppression. Yang Kai looked at him with a smile. That's right. The 100 Sex Alliance was formed to attack us because of this. When the time comes, my Voidland might face trouble. Does Brother Fong still want to join knowing this? Fong Yu said, if I enter Voidland, this Fong will live and die together with Voidland. It's better to die a glorious death than live a life filled with regrets. Good. Yang Kai laughed loudly. If after Brother Fong has expressed such an intention, how can this Yang refuse? From now on, you will be a member of my Voidland. Feeling overjoyed, Fong Yu got up and saluted. Disciple Fong Yu. Greets Sect Master. Yang Kai came forward to help him up. No need to be polite. You and I will call each other fellow brothers in the future. Fong Yu had condensed sixth-order powers, and would sooner or later advance to the sixth-order open heaven realm. At that time, he would become a powerhouse of Voidland. So Yang Kai did not want their relationship to stiffen due to their different positions. Fong Yu said gratefully, many thanks, Senior Brother. Yang Kai smiled and said, since you have joined my Voidland, you should practice well and tell me when you are about to break through to the open heaven realm. I will help you then. Fong Yu said in reply, I am not going to lie to Senior Brother. Right now, I am only one step away from advancing to the open heaven realm. I only need to condense my last element to break through, but I want to cultivate in retreat for some time to solidify my foundation first, so that I can have a better chance of success. That is for the best. Yang Kai nodded his head. When he was in the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary, Fong Yu had already reached the half-step open heaven realm with the help of the solid earth black tortoise. It had been a few years since he had left the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary, so it was not surprising that he was only one step away from breaking through. I'll have someone arrange a place for you to live. so you can cultivate inside the sect without worry. Fang Yu thanked him and hesitated for a moment before saying, Senior brother, do you remember Xianxia and the others? Yang Kai turned his head to look at him and asked curiously, Junior brother, what do you? Fang Yu answered, There were many bearers in the grand ancient ruins boundary. I believe that there are quite a few people who are facing the same predicament as me, such as Xianxia and Ding Yi. If senior brother offers them the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills, I think they would not refuse joining you. Since they were chosen by the divine spirits as bearers in the grand ancient ruins boundary, they should have condensed at least fifth-order elements. If they can successfully break through to the open heaven realm in the future, they will definitely become a great help to senior brother. Yang Kai nodded and said, While that is true, the 3,000 worlds is vast. No one knows where they could have gone after leaving the grand ancient ruins boundary. Fang Yu said with a smile, I too have no way to contact them, but senior brother does not need to worry about that. Even if senior brother may not know where they are right now, they certainly know where senior brother is. I believe that sooner or later they will come to you on their own initiative just like me. All senior brother needs to do is to sit back and wait. Yang Kai nodded lightly, that's true. In the grand ancient ruins boundary, the number of people chosen by the divine spirits to be bearers was quite large, 50 at least. While the number of people that did not belong to any sect may not be that great, as long as that number reached 30%, that would translate to 15 to 20 people. These people had at least condensed fifth-order elements. Furthermore, people such as Fang Yu and Ding Yi had condensed sixth-order elements. As long as they had a heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills as an auxiliary, there was a great chance that all of them could break through to the fifth or sixth-order open heaven realm. These bearers already owned Yang Kai a life-saving grace, so if he offered them a heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill now, delivering charcoal to them in the frigid winter, then Voidland should have no problem recruiting them. That would mean, in a relatively short span of time, Voidland could have 15 to 20 more masters in the fifth and sixth order open heaven realm. That was a terrifying force. From the situation Fang Yu pitched, it could be seen that the bearers from the grand ancient ruins boundary needed heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills much more than others. The closer they were to breaking through, the more urgent their need would be. Thus, what Fang Yu was saying had promise indeed. If what this Fang said assured senior brother, please let me handle this matter. If I act as an example, I believe they will be more assured. Fang Yu volunteered. Since he had just joined Voidland, he needed to do something to prove his worth, not just silently cultivate. What does junior brother plan to do? Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. Fang Yu smiled and said, I would like to ask senior brother to allocate a store to me. This junior brother can open a grand ancient ruins shop in the Star City. Not to sell anything, just to allow people to be able to find and come to this junior brother. Yang Kai laughed. Is junior brother trying to fish? Fang Yu winked at him and said, The ones who need it will take the bait. If Fang Yu personally ran the grand ancient ruins shop, Yang Kai believed that those who came out of the grand ancient ruins boundary would be much less wary, and it would be much easier to recruit them. Yang Kai had no reason to refuse anyway. It was only a single store, and it didn't matter even if he could not recruit people. He immediately called Bian Yuqing in and asked her to cooperate with Fang Yu. Soon, a store called Grand Ancient Ruins Shop opened in the center of the Star City, near Void Auction House. Grand Ancient Ruins Shop sold numerous goods, but none of the items were particularly valuable. In other words, it was a general store. There were also only a few shop hands in the Grand Ancient Ruins Shop. The sudden appearance of such a shop in such a prime location naturally aroused the interest of many, who came to investigate, but after ascertaining the circumstances of Grand Ancient Ruins Shop, many people sighed, thinking that the shopkeeper was simply stupid. It was an unwise decision to open the Grand Ancient Ruins Shop in such an area, which was a waste of money. Therefore, the popularity of the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary quickly died out a few days after it opened. The few shop hands had nothing to do all day long, and Fang Yu just sat behind the counter and cultivated in silence. However, the Grand Ancient Ruins shop had its first harvest after just 10 days. A young man called Li Yi approached Fang Yu, talked with him in a secret room, and was quickly introduced to Void Land. Li Yi was also one of the bearers from the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary. Just like Fang Yu, he was a rogue cultivator, however, he was a little bit inferior when compared to Fang Yu as he had only condensed fifth-order elements. Still, even fifth-order elements was beyond his limit. When Fang Yu heard about the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill, he took the initiative to come to the Star City, which Li Yi had also done. However, Li Yi had no relationship with Yang Kai whatsoever, except for the fact that he was brought out of the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary by him. Thus, he did not take the liberty of visiting Yang Kai due to the fear that he would be ignored. Moreover, he could not be sure that Voidland's Lord was the Yang Kai he met in the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary. If this Yang Kai was not the one that he knew and they just had similar names, then he would be put in an awkward spot. When Li Yi was at a loss for what to do, he passed by the Grand Ancient Ruins shop and saw Fang Yu. He was not familiar with Fang Yu, but he had met face-to-face with him before, so he naturally remembered him. Li Yi felt surprised and delighted and decided to talk to him. Fang Yu was waiting for this moment, so he didn't hesitate and immediately led Li Yi into the secret room. Getting to know that he could obtain a heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill when he was about to break through to the open heaven realm as long as he joined Voidland made Li Yu feel overjoyed. He nodded in agreement without any hesitation. To him, this was a life-saving straw he found when drowning, so why would he not grasp onto it firmly? With his successful recruitment of Li Yi, Fang Yu became even more confident. He believed that as long as those bearers from the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary heard news of the heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills, they would look for Void Star City sooner or later. All he needed to do now was wait patiently. While Fang Yu was staying in the Grand Ancient Ruins shop, Manager Zhou from Azura Heaven visited Voidland again. He and Yang Kai had bargained before, each putting forward their own conditions, but Manager Zhou was unable to make a decision and had sent a message to his superiors. This time, he had come to deliver Azura Heaven's answer. Yang Kai needed a high-ranking element treasure which Azura Heaven insisted was not possible. This was their respective bottom lines and there would be no negotiations. Even though Yang Kai had expected it, he was still slightly disappointed. Azura Heaven also failed to buy any heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills from Yang Kai. Yang Kai's attitude towards this matter was quite simple. They did not sell something he wanted, so naturally, he would not sell them what they wanted. If they wanted heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills, they could go to the auction that happened once every 3 months and bid for it themselves. The final results of the negotiations were that Void Star City would set aside a large plot for a new Azura arena to be built. Voidland would take a 30% share of the profits, but the rent and taxes would all be free. Void Auction House was already established now, so with the 30% stake in the Azura arena, 2 giant money trees had been planted. With the auction house and Azura Arena's 30% share, plus the Star City's rent and taxes, Voidland was now making a lot of money every day, more than enough to meet its current needs. It no longer needed to worry about making ends meet. However, sixth-order materials were still a problem. Although materials of this order were not as rare as those of the high rank, the amount of sixth-order materials one could find was definitely not great, and they couldn't easily be bought with money. Although the Star City was now popular and some sixth-order materials were now flowing in, there were still many in Voidland who needed sixth-order materials. The great emperors, Yang Kai's wives. Even Mo Shaoqi, Lin Yuner, Li Wuyi, Yang Yan, and several others all needed sixth-order materials. Although Yang Kai made a huge fortune in the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary, including a lot of sixth-order materials, it couldn't support the needs of so many. Originally, after he and Mo may advance to the sixth-order open heaven realm, they wanted to use sixth-order materials to cultivate. However, due to the lack of materials, they could only cultivate with open heaven pills. While refining open heaven pills could certainly help steadily improve their cultivation, the efficiency was not as good as directly refining sixth-order materials. Although Voidland had been spending a lot of money to acquire sixth-order materials, it still could not keep up with its pace of consumption, resulting in Yang Kai contributing even the Yuan Magnetic Divine Bottle Gourd. The sixth-order Yuan Magnetic Divine Light was sealed within the Yuan Magnetic Divine Bottle Gourd. It was a sixth-order metal element material that could be refined by cultivators. In the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary, Su Jin had helped Yang Kai upgrade his Wind Gourd to this Yuan Magnetic Divine Bottle Gourd. This item had played a significant role in Yang Kai's hands, and he repeatedly used it as a trump card to deal with strong enemies. However, now that Voidland had a shortage of sixth-order materials, Xianxia could only prioritize the cultivation needs of everyone first. Besides, he had made up his mind to not leave Voidland easily, so the Yuan magnetic divine bottle gourd would also not be of any use for the time being. When he later broke through to the open heaven realm, the Yuan magnetic divine bottle gourd would also become useless. On the other hand, Voidland wasn't the least bit worried about fifth-order materials, because the gourd vine could produce a whole set of fifth-order materials every month. There were always enough fifth-order materials, and all they needed to do was slowly wait. So, Voidland never needed to buy fifth-order materials, and instead they bought a lot of fourth-order and third-order materials. The Star City was developing steadily, and everything in Voidland had gradually entered the right track. Day by day, Xianxia's retreats were also being rewarded. He had now refined 6 element powers, only missing the Yin element. From these element powers he had obtained the Golden Crow casts the Sun divine manifestation by comprehending the mysteries of his Golden Crow's true fire. The Earth Great Dragon Bead helped him obtain the Dragon Shield secret technique, which was a powerful defensive ability. And the essence of the Immortal tree helped him comprehend the Towering Evergreen tree, another divine manifestation which was remarkably effective in both protection and healing. During these days of retreat, Xianxia also comprehended water reflects the moon. Although it was not a divine manifestation and instead just a divine ability, it complemented the Golden Crow casts the sun perfectly. The metal element power was refined by Xianxia from the monster core of the Golden Wolf King, and around the same time as when Xianxia realized the divine ability of water reflects the moon, he was also blessed with the comprehension of Golden Wolf howls at the moon. Among the 6 elements he had refined, he had only not yet comprehended a divine ability from his Yang element. However, Xianxia had obtained his Yang element power by refining the primordial Yang profound ginseng, so he, who did not know what he would be able to comprehend in the end, could only wait in silence. The Void Auction House held an auction every 3 months, and each time the finale was a Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill. Most recently, the 10th Heavenly Yuan Seal stabilizing pill had been auctioned off. In other words, it had already been 3 years since the Great Voidland migration. Voidland and its Star City had been developing quite well during this time. The only hiccup was the high order in element treasure that Xianxia needed, which there was still no news of. However, Xianxia had mentally prepared himself for this, so he was not anxious. Not to mention 3 years, he could continue to wait for several hundred years. He believed that as long as he had and was in this Star City, sooner or later he could get what he wanted. Xianxia had originally planned to just sit back and wait, but life never went as one planned. He overestimated the patience of some people and underestimated their determination to target him. While he was in retreat one day, the isolation barrier was touched. Xianxia opened the restriction, and Bian Yuqing hurriedly came in, her expression slightly unsightly. "Sect Master." Xianxia looked at her and asked, "What is it?" "There is news from the Void Dock that Bai Qi was found." "Old Bai was found?" Xianxia frowned. "What happened to Old Bai?" Bian Yuqing responded. Bai Qi was severely injured by someone and fell into a coma. He was brought to the dock by a passing ship. "What?" Xianxia immediately jumped up. More than a year ago, he had sent someone to Thousand Birds territory to find the proprietress, and to ask her to come to Voidland as a guest. He intended to ask her to open up a first-in-branch in their own Star City, so that it would be convenient to take care of and meet each other. But the messenger he sent eventually came back and reported that the first-in-branch was closed temporarily. The 3,000 worlds was vast and boundless and filled with seemingly endless great territories. Xianxia simply did not know how to find Old Bai and the proprietress, so he could only give up. Who would have guessed that today, when he finally got news of Bai Qi, that he was seriously injured and unconscious? Old Bai was a 5th-order open heaven master, so for another cultivator to injure him so gravely, they would have to be at least in the 6th-order open heaven realm. Being that he was a shop hand of First-In and the personal attendant of the proprietress, who would dare attack him so recklessly? If Bai Qi was so seriously injured, what about the proprietress? Xianxia's heart clenched, and he suddenly had a sinking feeling, like a big invisible net was covering him. After receiving the news, Xianxia immediately summoned Yuhi and asked her to follow him to the Star City Void Dock. Soon, Xianxia saw Old Bai while Jin Yuanlang personally reported the situation at the dock. Void Star City was now overcrowded, and every day there were many people waiting in line outside the dock to enter. Although the number of people was quite large, Jin Yuanlang had been in charge of the dock for a few years now, so he was able to handle it. When checking one of the ships waiting to enter, the owner reported that there was a fifth-order open heaven realm master called Bai Qi on board, who seemed to know the Lord of Voidland. Jin Yuanlang did not dare to be slow and went to check, and when he saw that it was indeed Bai Qi, he urgently treated his wounds to stabilize his condition while also sending a message to Voidland. When Xianxia arrived, Bai Qi was still in a coma, his face as pale as paper. His aura was unstable, and his body was drenched with fresh blood. The dried blood was caked onto his clothes in a way that was unbearable to see. Sect Master, Brother Bai has already taken a healing pill, and there is no danger to his life for the time being. But Jin Yuanlang, who was worried, stepped forward to whisper something to Xianxia. But what? Xianxia asked in a deep voice, his face almost dripping with gloom. But Brother Bai had pushed himself too far. When he was seriously injured, he did not heal his injuries properly and instead overexerted his own strength, resulting in the small universe in his body showing signs of instability. There is a risk that it might collapse soon. It is difficult to say whether he will survive. Xianxia's face became uglier and uglier. If the small universe in Bai Qi's body really collapsed, then his cultivation would become completely useless and he would become a cripple. Is there a solution? Xianxia asked. Jin Yuanlang shook his head slowly. Xianxia turned his head to look at Yuhi. After all, someone from Abundant City would not know much about this kind of thing, while Yuhi might have some options. Yuhi promptly answered, if we have a star-gathering universe pill, it should help him stabilize his small universe. During battles between open heaven realm masters, there are cases like Old Bai's, where the small universe in their body becomes turbulent. If the situation is mild, it is fine and can be resolved with some meditation and quiet cultivation. But if it is serious, it would require external help to restore. The star-gathering universe pill has this effect, but that pill is precious and ordinary alchemists would find it difficult to refine. Xianxia immediately said, send out a message that my Voidland is offering a huge reward for a star-gathering universe pill. If anyone has the spirit pill or can refine it, Voidland will fulfill anyone wish they have, as long as it is within our ability. The Star City was now full of talented people from all walks of life, and even many alchemists from other great forces were stationed here. The only way to get a star-gathering universe pill was from the Star City, and Xianxia could only pray that someone in Star City had or could refine one. After asking Yuhi to take care of Old Bai, Xianxia asked in a deep voice, what happened? Jin Yuanlang cupped his fist and said, Sect Master, my subordinates don't know what happened exactly, but when they were checking a certain ship, someone reported that there was a seriously injured person on board called Bai Qi. It turned out to be Brother Bai, so I hurriedly reported it. Xianxia coldly snorted. Bai Qi was unconscious, so how did the people on the ship know that his name was Bai Qi? Where's the owner of this ship? He's outside, Jin Yuanlang said before hurriedly asking someone to bring the manager in. The manager, who was only in the third-order open heaven realm, said with some trepidation once he stepped into the room, Profound Thundersex Lu when Fei greets sirs. Xianxia turned his head towards him, looked him up and down, and saw that this man's hair was white. He looked elderly with an unstable aura. Obviously, the third-order open heaven realm was his limit and Profound Thundersect was just a third-class force. Jin Yuanlang said, Manager Lu need not be afraid. My Voidland will never bully the weak. I only called you over because my sect master has some questions he wishes to ask. Lu Wenfei bowed his head and said, Sir, this old man will tell you everything I know no matter what questions you have. Xianxia nodded and asked, Manager Lu, I want to know where you found Bai Qi and what the situation was at that time. Lu Wenfei hurriedly reported, Sir, this old man met Sir Bai Qi in this void territory. He was in a hurry at that time, but it seemed that because he was seriously injured, his strength was failing him and his speed was quite slow. This old man invited him on board, but he only had time to report his name, and that he was to be taken to the Xianxia of Voidland directly. After that, he passed out. Hearing him mention Sect Master Yang's name, this old man did not dare to neglect this issue. This old man immediately rushed to the dock, and when I saw Sir Jin, this old man reported the matter. Is that all? Yang Kai asked in a deep voice. Lu Wenfei hurriedly said, Sect Master Yang, please understand, this was really what happened. This old man would never dare to hide anything from you. Yang Kai looked at his face, nodded lightly and said, I understand. He ordered someone to lead Lu Wenfei out and to also reward him with some open heaven pills. Yang Kai also instructed his men to monitor Lu Wenfei's movements. Jin Yuanlang mused. Sect Master is suspicious of this profound thunder sect. Just in case, but they should have nothing to do with Old Bai's matter. It is most likely just a coincidence. In the end, it didn't matter. If Old Bai woke up, everything would become clear. But right now, Old Bai's situation did not look very optimistic. Yang Kai carefully put him into the Fated Paths bag and brought him back to Voidland. At the same time, he sent a message to the Star City Governor's mansion, telling Mo Mei to personally put up a reward for a star-gathering universe pill. In a secret chamber, Old Bai was lying on the bed, breathing weakly, still unconscious. The aura surrounding him was extremely faint. He carefully used World Force to adjust the small universe in Old Bai's body, to prevent his injuries from deteriorating. Yang Kai, on the other hand, used his wood element power to heal Old Bai's physical injuries. Yang Kai really didn't know where the proprietress had gone for more than 2 years. Word of the previous battle against Voidland by the 100 Sects Alliance had already spread throughout the 3,000 worlds. Logically speaking, according to the proprietress's temperament, if she got to know that such an event had happened, she would have already come to Voidland to investigate the situation. But she never showed up. Yang Kai sent someone to invite the proprietress to Void Star City, but she was still nowhere to be seen. Where did she go after leaving the Blood Monster Cave Heaven? What happened to her? Just who managed to injure Old Bai like this? As long as Old Bai did not wake up, everything would remain a mystery. 2 days later, good news came from the Star City Governor's mansion. There was an alchemy grandmaster in the Star City who could refine the star-gathering universe pill. With the help of Yang Kai's wood element power, Old Bai's injuries were much better and his aura had also stabilized a lot. But the small universe in his body was still far from stable. If this was not resolved, Old Bai could die at any time, even if he woke up. Yang Kai had been quite worried these past 2 days, but now he had finally heard some good news. He immediately ordered someone to invite the Grandmaster over. But soon Mo Mei sent a message back, saying that although the alchemist was willing to help Voidland, he was asking for the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pills recipe and 100 portions of World Source Liquid as his price. Mo Mei was extremely annoyed by this shameless request. The only reason Void Star City was so popular was because of its Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pills. This kind of pill was only available in Voidland, so if someone else obtained its recipe and a large supply of its main ingredient, it would greatly affect the future development of the Star City. The alchemist obviously understood this, which was why he made such an excessive demand. Yang Kai's heart was filled with rage, but he did not hesitate to reply, promise him. Even if someone had the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pills recipe, they would need World Source Liquid, which was the primary ingredient. 100 portions of World Source Liquid could only make a total of 100 Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pills. Although it was a lot compared to Old Bai's life, it was nothing. After he sent the message, an idea flashed through Yang Kai's mind, and he sent another message. Tell that alchemist that he can have the pill recipe, but we can only give him 10 portions of World Source Liquid. Tell him to take it or leave it. It wasn't that he wasn't willing to hand over 100 portions or that he didn't have enough World Source Liquid to spare. In fact, Yang Kai had a literal pond of it. However, if he just agreed to such an excessive request, he would be revealing this fact, which would be detrimental in the future to all of Voidland. It wouldn't even matter if this alchemist did refuse, since Yang Kai could just continue to negotiate. After waiting for less than an incense stick worth of time, Mo Mei came back with a message. The alchemist agreed. He probably thought that World Source Liquid was extremely rare and asking for 100 portions was just him trying to take the lion's share, not really expecting to get it. Since Voidland had put forth a counteroffer, 10 portions would be more than enough to satisfy him. The alchemist also put forth a condition that he would not come to Voidland to perform alchemy and would instead refine the spirit pill and then make the trade in the Star City. Yang Kai believed that the alchemist feared entering Voidland would be disadvantageous for him. After all, he openly coveted the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pills. The alchemist who dared to request such a thing knew he had offended them. In Voidland, where his life or death would be under the control of another, how would he dare to perform alchemy? All that did not matter though, since Xianxia agreed to his condition. It would take a few days to refine the star-gathering universe pill. After all kinds of materials were needed to make it. Fortunately, the Star City now had a wide range of goods for sale, so it would definitely not be difficult to collect the materials required. Xianxia was glad that he had made great efforts to develop the Star City. Otherwise, where could he have found an alchemist who could refine the star-gathering universe pill while collecting the materials locally? 2 days later, Old Bai woke up. Xianxia was healing him at that time and suddenly found that Old Bai's aura had stabilized slightly. His eyelids twitched, so Xianxia called out to him a few times, hastily. Old Bai really did open his eyes, and when he saw Xianxia, he grabbed his arm and said through clenched teeth, "Proprietress is in trouble. Please save her." Xianxia's heart sank, and while suppressing the uneasiness he felt, he said comfortingly, "Speak whatever you want to say slowly. You're gravely injured, so you can't let your emotions fluctuate too much." Old Bai took a few deep breaths, lay down on the bed, and explained what had happened over the past 2 years. After parting with Xianxia and leaving the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, the proprietress took Old Bai and the others to the Shattered Heaven instead of Thousand Birds territory. The Shattered Heaven was a famous place in the 3000 worlds because that place was a battlefield that were the remains of a shocking war that happened during ancient times. No one knew which masters participated in that calamitous war, but it was certain that many high-rank open heaven realm masters were involved and had met their ends there. In the Shattered Heaven, there were crises around every corner, with numerous ancient seals and divine abilities that either persisted to today or could be triggered at a moment's notice. There were even some extremely dangerous artifacts and entities that had gained spirituality and would attack with earth-shattering and heaven-destroying power. In addition, there were many universe cave heavens and universe paradises left after the death of so many high-rank open heaven realm masters, and if one was not careful, they could fall into one, never to escape. Naturally, it was known as the Forbidden Zone in the 3000 worlds. Even high-rank open heaven realm masters were reluctant to set foot there because no one knew when danger would strike in that place. Once, an 8th-order open heaven realm cultivator ventured deep into the Shattered Heaven and simply disappeared. No one knew whether that person was dead or alive. More than a dozen 7th-order open heaven realm masters had also disappeared in the Shattered Heaven in the last 1000 years. But even if the Shattered Heaven was notorious, many cultivators could not resist exploring it, because as the remnants of an ancient battlefield, where countless powerful masters had died, countless riches had also been left behind. Not to mention, if one could find the entrance to a universe cave heaven or a universe paradise, they could scavenge the legacy left behind by those high-rank open heaven realm masters. A single blood monster cave heaven drew forces from all across the 3000 worlds every time it opened. But what if there was more than one blood monster cave heaven hidden in the Shattered Heaven? It was possible that dozens, if not hundreds of universe cave heavens and paradises remained, so it was not hard to imagine what an irresistible temptation it presented. After the blood monster cave heaven collapsed, the proprietress had said that Xianxia should cultivate peacefully and let her take care of the matter of the high-rank element treasure. So, after parting with Xianxia, she led Bai Qi and the others directly to the Shattered Heaven. The proprietress was a 6th-order open heaven realm master, while Old Bai, chef, and accountant were all 5th-order masters. The 4 of them made for a considerable force, and if they were lucky enough, they might just be able to find a high-rank element treasure in the Shattered Heaven. In fact, the proprietress's luck was quite good. In the 2 years they spent in the Shattered Heaven, they really did come across a suspected high-rank element treasure, but while they were trying to collect it, some sort of restriction that they had not discovered was triggered and it disappeared, along with accountant and chef. The proprietress tried to escape, but her efforts proved futile. Just when Old Bai was at a loss on what to do, a voice reached his ear. "If you want to save them, go to Voidland and find Xianxia. Don't delay or it will be too late." After listening to Old Bai's explanation, Xianxia was dumbfounded. He did not expect that the proprietress would be in trouble because of him. If she hadn't wanted to help him find a high-rank element treasure, why would she have risked going to the Shattered Heaven, where even high-rank open heaven realm masters could die? If she hadn't gone to the Shattered Heaven, she wouldn't have suddenly disappeared. The voice transmission that Old Bai heard at the end clearly indicated something. Damn it! Yang Kai ground his teeth. This was obviously a very complex and well-planned out trap. If not, why would Old Bai hear that voice transmission? Some people were trying to lure the snake out of the hole. Yang Kai had been staying in Void Land for the past 2 years, so the forces aiming at him had no way to attack him. As such, they decided to target the proprietress to lure him out. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kai suppressed the rage in his heart. Someone must have done it on purpose. Old Bai looked at Yang Kai with shame present on his face. I didn't understand why the mastermind behind this wanted me to come to Void Land to find you. But after hearing some news along the way, I understood. Old Bai heard about the destruction of the 106th Alliance on his way here and only then realized that Void Land was now a force that had a mighty army with the finest arms at the ready. Even Kong Feng of Heavenly Sword Union died in Void Land. Now that Void Land had 2 divine spirits protecting it, if they wanted to deal with Yang Kai, they would need to separate him from Void Land. Bai Qi clearly knew this, and also knew that if he came and informed Yang Kai about what happened, Yang Kai would not sit idly by. But the proprietress's safety was at stake, and thus he had to do something. Naturally, this caused him to feel great guilt towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai, if you do not want to go, this Old Bai will not blame you. After I heal my wounds, I will go and save proprietress myself. Yang Kai firmly and decisively shook his head. Proprietress has shown great kindness and care towards me. Without her, there would not be a Yang Kai today. She is in trouble because of me, and the mastermind behind this is clearly doing this to target me. If after knowing this, I do not go, how can I still have the face to live in this world? Old Bai, you are underestimating me by saying that. Old Bai let out a soft sigh. Besides, in this condition, what more can you do? As for proprietress, you can rest assured. Since this person is targeting me, he will not do anything to her until I show up. Yang Kai comforted. That said, Yang Kai still felt somewhat uneasy since, right now, no one knew what the proprietress situation was. Old Bai's physical injuries had healed a lot thanks to his wood element power and the healing pills he had taken. All remaining issues need to be taken care of slowly. Right now, the greatest problem he faced was the instability of the small universe in his body, but that required the star-gathering universe pill to resolve. Leaving Yu He to look after Old Bai, Yang Kai sent a divine sense transmission to Mo Mei, inquiring about the situation. Shortly afterwards, Mo Mei replied that the star-gathering universe pill was being refined. While she didn't know when it would be successfully completed, once the pill was ready, she would send it to Void Land immediately. Yang Kai stood on the top of a certain spirit peak after breaking off the transmission with Mo Mei. Gazing at the sea of clouds, he sorted out his jumbled thoughts while his mind wandered. The proprietress was in trouble, and someone was trying to lure him out of Void Land. But in the face of this situation, he really did not have any good solution. Unless he acted like a shrinking turtle, he could not sit idly by. However, if he really did rush out of Void Land, his enemy's scheme would be successful. After a long contemplation, Yang Kai's gaze gradually hardened. His body flickered and he suddenly disappeared. By the time he reappeared, he had already arrived outside of a great palace which was protected by layers of arrays. Entry into this part of the Void Land was forbidden for any uninvited person. Even its open heaven realm masters had to go around this place. This couldn't be helped because this was the place where Zhu Jiuyin cultivated in retreat. Facing this palace, Yang Kai cupped his fist and shouted, "Senior, Junior Yang Kai requests an audience." There was no response. Yang Kai shouted again, "Senior, I need to see you urgently, please show yourself." Even after calling for her 3 times in a row, Zhu Jiuyin did not respond. Yang Kai felt very annoyed. Although there were barriers here, Zhu Jiuyin was incredibly powerful, so she certainly knew he was here. She must have also heard his voice. Yet she was not showing up. What did that mean? Ever since she came to Void Land, Zhu Jiuyin had been living in seclusion except for the last time when the 106th Alliance had come. Other than that time, she had basically not shown herself. Normally, since Zhu Jiuyin had taken such an attitude, Yang Kai would not impose himself on her. However, this time, since it was related to the safety of the proprietress, he had no choice but to risk offending her. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kai raised his hand and summoned the azure dragon spear, its tip pointing forward. With a single thought, the 9 heavenly layers grand array roared to life, making the entire voidland buzz. It had been 3 years since the last time the 9 heavenly layers grand array had been activated, so while the starlight strength gathered in such a short period of time was not much, it was enough to support Yang Kai to activate it at least once. The azure dragon spear suddenly turned into a great dragon, shaking its head and flicking its tail. A high-pitched dragon roar resounded through the sky as dragon pressure filled the air. The giant dragon stared at the palace's front door majestically, ready to pounce with its teeth and claws. "You dare to display such impudence, you brat." Zhu Jiuyin's voice boomed in Yang Kai's ears, and a slender figure entered his field of vision after the palace's restriction disappeared. Seeing her, Yang Kai hurriedly dispersed the power of the grand array and put away the azure dragon spear. His action had made the great dragon disintegrated into thin air. Zhu Jiuyin looked at him with annoyance. "What madness possessed you to do this, you smelly brat?" Yang Kai's face was slightly pale, and after taking a few sharp gasps for breath, he cupped his fist and said, "Please forgive me, senior, but the situation is urgent." Zhu Jiuyin looked at him suspiciously and frowned when she saw him so disturbed. Last time, when the 100 Sects Alliance had come, Yang Kai was as steady as a mountain and did not send any messages to her, asking for help until the very last moment. It was only when the 2 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters suddenly showed up that Zhu Jiuyin really took action. What could have happened this time for him to appear so disturbed? Faintly aware that the situation this time was probably not a small matter, Zhu Jiuyin softly snorted, "Come in and talk." "Many thanks, senior." Yang Kai followed Zhu Jiuyin into the palace after he cupped his fist. After the guest and the host were seated, Yang Kai looked around and saw no sign of Shan Qingluo. She was obviously cultivating in retreat. With Zhu Jiuyin, a divine spirit of the same lineage as her, personally teaching her, Shan Qingluo's future cultivation path was not something Yang Kai needed to worry about. "So? What is it?" Zhu Jiuyin proactively asked. Yang Kai organized his thoughts and told her briefly about what had happened to the proprietress. Zhu Jiuyin listened to him completely before she snorted. "What the hell did you do to provoke so many people to deal with you? Last time it was the 100 Sects Alliance, and this time it is clear that some group is targeting you. This queen and that old turtle are present in Voidland, which is why they are using that Lan Yu Rua as bait to lure you out. It is only because of your relationship with her. What senior says is true. Someone is trying to lure me out." Yang Kai nodded. Zhu Jiuyin looked at him with amusement. "Since you know this, why don't you just not go out?" Yang Kai shook his head slowly. "I have to go." Since the mastermind behind this had told Old Bai to go to Voidland and inform him, it was clear that his target was Yang Kai. If Yang Kai did not show up, the crisis that the proprietress was in would not be resolved. Furthermore, she would only be put into more danger. So, even though he knew that once he left Voidland, he would be stepping into a trap set by someone else, Yang Kai had to leap into it. Zhu Jiuyin looked up and down at him. "I didn't know you were so foolish till now." Yang Kai quickly replied, "Senior, please don't joke right now. This junior is feeling really anxious." Zhu Jiuyin laughed coldly. "What kind of bewitching soup did that woman feed you for you to even risk yourself to save her? Do you not know if something happens to you, Luo will try to avenge you no matter what? With the inconsequential cultivation she has right now, it will be the same as impulsively jumping into death's embrace. Even so, she will still do it." Yang Kai said, "Proprietress has shown great kindness to me. Now that she is in trouble, I cannot sit idly by." Zhu Jiuyin snickered. "Fool!" Suddenly, she frowned and squinted at Yang Kai. "What are you doing here talking to this queen then? I'm warning you, don't get any ideas about bothering this queen." Yang Kai said, "Since someone has set up such a trap, waiting for this junior to throw himself in, I naturally cannot go unprepared. In all of Voidland, I can only rely on you, senior, so I hope senior can accompany me." "In your dreams?" Zhu Jiuyin instantly snapped. "Senior, please don't forget that you are my protector. You have sworn an oath on your divine spirit source. If this junior dies during this trip, you will be breaching your oath." Zhu Jiuyin chuckled lightly and said, "Really? This queen seems to recall there being many clauses in that oath, such as this queen's protection not extending to situations in which you cause trouble outside yourself and get killed? Ha, go ahead. This queen will wait for the good news here in Voidland. Once you die, this queen will be free. Just thinking about it certainly makes this queen feel happy. Xianxia said miserably, Senior, I was the one who brought you out of the grand ancient ruins boundary, out of that prisoner's cage. You can't just sit back and watch when I'm in trouble now. When those two high-rank open heaven realm masters attacked you last time, didn't this queen help? This queen is your protector, not your nanny. If you want to go around courting death, this queen cannot stop you. Forget about this. This queen will never agree to accompany you. Zhu Jiuyin flicked her sleeve. Get out. Get out. Don't show this queen your unlucky appearance. All it will do is bring misfortune. A strong force shoved Xianxia, pushing him back. Xianxia gritted his teeth and shouted. If Senior helps me this one time, ensuring that proprietress is safe and sound, then I will consider Senior to have fully fulfilled her oath. From then on, Senior will regain her freedom. Zhu Jiuyin's movements paused, and her beautiful eyes glowed as she stared at him. Is what you're saying true? Xianxia grit his teeth and said, I always mean what I say. Zhu Jiuyin was clearly moved. As long as she helped Xianxia this time, she could be released from her oath, and for her this was indeed a huge temptation. It would be a hassle for her to be a protector for 1,000 years, especially since this brat in front of her had a propensity for stirring up trouble. She would not have to help this brat clean up after every mess he made. But Zhu Jiuyin slowly shook her head after pondering for only a little while, and declared, No, absolutely not. Xianxia hurriedly asked, Why? Zhu Jiuyin grunted. Do you think a divine spirit is invincible? This queen's strength has not yet been fully restored, and last time they already tested this queen's depths. They would have obviously taken this queen into consideration since they are targeting you. Perhaps the people targeting you have set up a terrifying trap outside, just waiting for this queen to step into it. After saying this, Zhu Jiuyin could not help but have a cold sweat, increasingly feeling a sense of an inexplicable crisis. I was almost deceived by your honeyed words, you damn brat. Zhu Jiuyin scolded furiously. Xianxia also snarled angrily, Senior is so heartless, even refusing to grant this small favor. Is this what you call a small favor? Stop talking nonsense. You are asking this queen to gamble with her life. Fine then. Xianxia ground his teeth angrily. Since Senior is so unwilling to help, this junior will not force you. Just know that if this junior really dies on this trip, Luor will become a widow, and we will see if she forever resents you or not. Despicable little bastard. Zhu Jiuyin's face turned red with rage. Get out. With a flick of her hand, she drove Xianxia out of the palace, causing him to tumble through the air for a few breaths before he slowly stabilized himself. Glancing at the palace where Zhu Jiuyin lived, Xianxia heaved a heavy sigh. Even though he had been arguing so passionately with her just now, he was in no position to blame Zhu Jiuyin for refusing his request. Zhu Jiuyin was right. Her existence was already known to them, and this time she would definitely be taken into account and targeted. Even if Zhu Jiuyin accompanied him, the other party may have the means to deal with her. However, right now, in Voidland, she and Bai Shi were the strongest masters available. Xianxia definitely needed their help to save the proprietress. After hitting a wall with Zhu Jiuyin, Xianxia turned his head towards the Dragon Sun's peak. On Dragon Sun's peak, Xianxia and the old man Bai Shi sat facing each other with a chessboard in between them. They played in turns, and Xianxia, who did not know how to play this game too well, was soon defeated. Xiaohong stood behind him, watching nervously and clenching her little fists from time to time, while Xiaohei sat beside him, mindlessly giggling and drooling all over the place. Boy, you are a little unfocused today, no? Bai Shi said smilingly, and casually placed a piece. Xianxia rolled his eyes at him and dropped the piece in his hand onto the board, saying, Senior, why do you ask? Voidland in its entirety was carried by Bai Shi on his back, thus, if he so desired, nothing in Voidland could escape his perception. Xianxia had gone to Zhu Jiuyin's place and had almost made a big scene just a few moments earlier. Thus, he did not believe that the old turtle had not noticed. Bai Shi laughed. You didn't come to this old master to vent the anger you feel towards that little spider, right? While saying that, He raised his hand to wipe the drool off the corner of Xiao Hei's mouth before stroking his head with a doting expression. Yang Kai said with a bitter smile, "This junior naturally dares not to, but the future is looking very dim. That is why I came to senior this time, to ask for advice." She slowly tidied up the pieces and gently said, "This is an unsolvable game. This old master can't do anything about it, unless you learn from this old master." Saying so, he shrank his neck and made a very vivid action, and became a shrinking turtle. Yang Kai said with a dark face, "Senior knows that is impossible. Then you'll have to go and die." Xiao Hong looked towards Yang Kai nervously, tears welling up in her eyes. "Is there really no advice senior can give me?" Yang Kai looked at him expectantly. She sighed. "This old master really cannot help much with this. This old master can still be of some use if something happens in your void territory. But this time you have to travel far away. You know the size of this old master. I would never be able to pass through the territory gate unless I transform and shrink. But if I do that, your void land will definitely be torn apart. Do you want to give up on void land?" Yang Kai slowly shook his head. Void land had hundreds of thousands of disciples living in it. If he really gave up on it, where would they go? But there would be no way to get through the territory gate to other great territories if Bai Shi didn't shrink himself first. So, from the beginning, Yang Kai didn't really expect Bai Shi to follow him with his real body. "Senior, what about your embodiment?" Yang Kai stared at him, not moving for a moment. Bai Shi replied, "This old master's embodiment is able to borrow power only when it is in the vicinity of my true body. Cannot exert much strength when it is too far away. Outside this territory, it will at best be on par with a 6th-order open heaven realm master." "Do you actually lack 6th-order open heaven realm subordinates?" Yang Kai was stunned. Last time, when Bai Shi's embodiment had appeared, it easily blocked a 7th-order open heaven realm master's strike. Thus, Yang Kai had thought that the old man's embodiment was also extremely powerful. Now, he realized that the old man's embodiment was only able to do that by borrowing the power of his real body. If Bai Shi's embodiment was really only equivalent to a 6th-order open heaven realm master, its presence wouldn't be able to make much of a difference. Zhu Jiuyin had rejected him with no trace of politeness. And now, he could not even count on Bai Shi. Yang Kai felt his future looked completely bleak. After pondering for a while, he asked, "Does Senior know anything about the Shattered Heaven?" Bai Shi said, "I know a little bit about it. The Shattered Heaven formed a long time ago, even before this old master was born. Apparently, the birth of an innate supreme treasure triggered a bloody struggle amongst all the major cave heavens and paradises. It almost swept up the entire outer universe. That battle was fought for over 100 years. I don't even know how many high-rank open heaven realm masters fell in that accursed place. Several great territories were broken to pieces and the Shattered Heaven was formed from their remnants. The cave heavens and paradises that took part severely damaged their foundations. Even after recuperating for countless years after that battle ended, they still haven't been able to recover completely. How could the current heritage of the cave heaven paradises even be compared to their former glory?" Yang Kai was startled. The Shattered Heaven was a result of a blood feud between the major cave heavens and paradises? "Indeed." Bai Shi nodded. Apart from a battle between the cave heaven paradises, what else could lead to the death of so many high-rank open heaven realm masters in this world? It was enough to fill the Shattered Heaven with so many opportunities and dangers. This old master once traveled the Shattered Heaven when he was young, but I did not go too deep. So, the only advice this old master can give you about the Shattered Heaven is to be careful. This junior will remember." Yang Kai nodded. At the same time, he felt both guilty and touched. The proprietress also knew that it wouldn't be convenient for Yang Kai to go looking for a high-ranking element treasure by himself. Thus, she took this matter into her own hands after they left the Blood Monster Cave Heaven. However, even though she was a 6th-order open heaven realm master, finding a high-ranking element treasure would not be easy with the Shattered Heaven as the only place she could think of. Although she knew it was dangerous, the proprietress still ventured into the Shattered Heaven boldly without any hesitation. Nothing would have happened to her if it wasn't for someone else's hidden scheme. But someone wanted to use her to lure Yang Kai away from Void Land, and that was what got her into this mess. Yang Kai also asked Bai Shi about what happened when he entered the shattered heaven, and Bai Shi told him everything he could. Unfortunately, he had only wandered around the outer edge, so Yang Kai did not really get much information. After half a day passed, Yang Kai got up to say goodbye. Xiao Hong also stood up and said, "Young master, I will come with you." Over the past few years, she had learnt to stop stuttering while speaking. Xiao He sucked in his saliva and puffed out his chest. "I'm coming too." When Bai Shi heard them, he glared at them. "What are you two even capable of doing in a place like that right now? Be good and stay here with this old master." Xiao Hong replied, "Xiao He and I were brought out of the grand ancient ruins boundary by young master. We are only able to assume human form right now thanks to him giving us so many dragon blood pills. If it were not for young master, Xiao He and I would still be living in that dark cage, trapped and ignorant of the world. Now that young master is in trouble, how can we ignore him? Since you can't go, Grandpa Turtle, Xiao He and I will go." "Nonsense," Bai Shi rebuked. He had been alone for countless years, but luckily now he had two little babies who possessed dragon bloodlines like him to accompany him. He was happier and more comfortable than he had been in millennia, so how could he sit back and watch them walk into danger? Yang Kai rubbed Xiao Hong's head. "I understand how you feel, but don't come to the shattered heaven with me. I survived the grand ancient ruins boundary, so what's the shattered heaven to me? You stay here, at home. This young master will be right back." Xiao Hong stubbornly replied, "No, no, no. I'm coming. I'm coming. If young master doesn't take us, Xiao He and I will just secretly follow you by ourselves. We will live and die together with young master." Xiao He nodded vigorously. "Yes, we will live and die together." Yang Kai was dumbfounded and looked at Bai Shi for help. Bai Shi's face turned black with anger. It took a while before he grit his teeth and spoke up. "Little girl, you should just say it. If you want this old master to help, just say it openly. Why do you have to beat around the bush like that?" Yang Kai was puzzled. Bai Shi opened his mouth and spat out something, and handed it to Yang Kai with some reluctance. "Take it. It may save your life at a critical moment." Yang Kai reached out and took it, while curiously asking, "What is this?" Bai Shi chuckled and said, "This was something this old master molted in my early years. It has been refined by this old master. All you need to do to activate it is pour your strength into it." Yang Kai looked carefully and found that the object in his hand was a tortoise shell that was the size of a palm and immediately lit up with joy while thanking, "Many thanks, Senior." Yang Kai has witnessed how strong Bai Shi's defense was with his own eyes. Now that he had this tortoise shell refined by Bai Shi himself, Yang Kai had some capital to protect his life during this trip. He was only in the half-step open heaven realm, and although he could compete with a low-rank open heaven realm master if he used all his cards, if he encountered a high-rank open heaven realm master, he still did not have enough power to fight back. He did not need to fight and win in the shattered heaven this time. All he needed to do was protect himself. Right now, what Bai Shi gave him was akin to charcoal delivered in the frigid winter. Xiao Hong stepped forward and started shaking Bai Shi's arm with a smile. "I knew Grandpa Turtle was the best," Bai Shi said with a dark face. "Don't play these kinds of tricks. I shouldn't have let you see that thing last time. Little girls are really ungrateful wolves that can't be raised well. They always side with outsiders instead of their own family." Xiao Hong placed her head on Bai Shi's arm and said coquettishly, "Grandpa Turtle, don't be angry. When Xiao Hong grows up and becomes stronger, she will be filial to you." At those words, Bai Shi smiled with great joy and comfort. Yang Kai cupped his fist and said, "Senior, this junior still has things to do, so I shall leave first." After saying that, he turned around to leave. "Kid!" Bai Shi suddenly shouted behind him. Yang Kai turned his head to look at him. "What's the matter, Senior? If your life is truly in danger," Bai Shi looked solemn, and took a long time before continuing, "you might as well reveal your dragon heritage. If you do so, you may force your enemy to act cautiously, lest they incur dangerous consequences. But only expose it as a last resort. Even though the dragon clan is strong, it also has a lot of enemies, and it is very likely that exposing it will backfire as well." Yang Kai nodded to show that he understood. This junior will remember. Yang Kai vaguely felt that Bai Shi's statement seemed to be somewhat familiar. Thinking about it carefully, he remembered that when he saved Mia Meng, she had said something similar to him. Bai Shi also had the same advice, so it seems that the Dragon Clan may have truly made quite a few enemies in the 3,000 worlds. But still, Yang Kai had gained something that was personally shed and refined by Bai Shi, which was at least something. When he returned to the place old Bai was currently recuperating in, he spoke, "Young master, I have thought about it for a while and I think you shouldn't go to the Shattered Heaven. After Bai Chi recovers, I will go with him to save Big Sister Lan." Yang Kai shook his head and sighed. "If I don't show up, Proprietress will never be able to escape from danger. This is a scheme purposefully aimed at me, and only I can resolve it. On the contrary, you shouldn't go. Proprietress is stronger than you, but the person behind this still managed to subdue her. It's easy to tell that your going won't help." Yuhi shook her head and replied, "Just like how young master has a reason to go, I also have a reason to go. Big Sister Lan treats me like her true sister, and nurtured me from a young age. I've resented her for many years because of something in the past. But now, when she is in trouble, how can I stand by and do nothing? Young master, you are not yet in the open heaven realm, yet you are risking your life going there for her. So how can I sit by and watch? Besides, the Shattered Heaven is full of dangers, so you must be accompanied by someone." No matter what he said, Yang Kai could not persuade Yuhi, so he could only give up and let out a sigh. "Good. This trip is dangerous, so it'll be just you, me, and old Bai." Yuhi said, "What about Mo-Mei? Voidland needs someone to assume command, so Mo-Mei can't leave. No one else needs to know. I will write a letter to her explaining the situation." This trip to the Shattered Heaven was not a problem that could be solved with numbers. Since the mastermind behind this wanted to lure him out of Voidland, they must be fully prepared. Voidland's current strength was most likely not worthy enough to be placed in front of their eyes. What's more, if they sent too many people, they would easily expose themselves. Thus, it would be easier for Yang Kai and the others to hide their movements if they embarked on this trip with only 3 people. Subconsciously, Yang Kai was not optimistic about the prospects of this trip. If he really did take all the major pillars of Voidland with him and something went wrong, Voidland would be finished. The hundreds of thousands of disciples would become homeless and displaced. On the contrary, if Mo-Mei and the others stayed behind, even if something happened to him with Voidland's current scale and the almost perfectly prospering Star City, Voidland would still have the power to continue to exist and develop. Yui pondered for a moment before gently nodding her head. Yang Kai summoned Bian Yuqing and gave her a few confidential instructions. A few days later, the Star-Gathering Universe pill was finally refined. Mo-Mei delivered the Heavenly Yuan Seal Stabilizing Pills recipe, and the 10 portions of the World Source Liquid Yang Kai prepared to the alchemist in question, exchanging the Star-Gathering Universe pill with them. Afterwards, she returned to Voidland. Yui stood guard while Old Bai swallowed and refined the Star-Gathering Universe pill. It took a whole day for his small universe that had been endlessly shaking to finally settle down. There was no longer any more risk of collapse, he just needed to slowly recuperate. With everything ready, Yang Kai set off, fearing that a long delay would only cause more problems. At the void dock, a large, rough-looking man strode forward while leading a group of people. The disciple who was guarding the dock came forward and bowed while cupping his fist. "Sir Wei, are you on your way out?" Although the person who had arrived was only a third-order open heaven realm master, the disciples guarding the dock recognized him because he was Wei Kei, from Great Moon Province, and they had been instructed by their superiors to take special care of him. It seemed that the sect master had some connections with Great Moon Province. Wei Kei chuckled. "Business is good these days, so I'm going back to the sect to pick up some supplies and deliver some profits. I'll have to bother you, fellow brothers. Sir Wei is too polite." The disciple nodded lightly and led a few other disciples to perform a casual inspection before waving them through. After leaving the dock, Wei Kei immediately summoned a boat and took several disciples from Great Moon Province aboard, speeding off into the distance. It was only half a day later that Wei Kei, who was in the cabin compartment, reached out and took a bag from his waist, whispering after patting it gently, "Sect Master Yang, we've already traveled for half a day." Once he was done, the mouth of the bag suddenly opened and 3 figures appeared in front of him. The 3 figures were none other than Yang Kai, Yuhi, and Old Bai. Old Bai, who was still seriously injured, coughed. Yang Kai put the Fated Paths bag away and cupped his fist. "Many thanks, Senior Wei. Wei Ke waved his hand. Sect Master Yang is too polite. Voidland has been very kind to my great moon province. What this Wei has done is nothing in comparison. It is hardly enough to return even one of the favors we owe. After a short pause, Wei Ke continued, this Wei is a simple man. Although I don't know why Sect Master Yang is doing this, it is obvious he is going to do something big. If there is something that Great Moon Province can do, please feel free to ask. When Yang Kai suddenly approached Wei Ke and asked him to bring him out of Voidland quietly, the latter realized that the matter at hand was not simple. Voidland was Yang Kai's territory. If now, as Voidland's sect master, he needed to conceal his whereabouts when he entered and left, it would mean he suspected that there were people both inside and outside of Voidland that were watching him, which made it necessary for him to act so secretively. How powerful was the enemy he was facing for him to still be so cautious even with Voidland's current strength? Great Moon Province was only a third-class great force and could not afford to get involved in such muddy waters. But Wei Ke was a man who believed deeply in repaying favors and grudges. He was willing to help even though he knew it would be extremely dangerous. Yang Kai said, "This junior appreciates Senior Wei's kind intentions, but others can't help me this time. Many thanks." Wei Ke sighed. In that case, Sect Master Yang must be careful not to let these wicked people's schemes succeed. He knew that this was Yang Kai's personal matter. Also, he wouldn't be able to help with his meager strength, so he didn't try to force the issue. Bidding farewell to Wei Ke, Yuhi summoned a small wooden shuttle and the trio headed straight towards the nearest territory gate. 2 days later, the territory gate came into sight. There were territory gates between all great territories, and when crossing one, a cultivator would be exposed to a strong pressure. If one tried to cross a territory gate with their physical body without having a cultivation of at least the mid-rank open heaven realm, they would face grave danger to their lives. If a cultivator under the mid-rank open heaven realm wanted to cross a territory gate, they had to use some type of flight-type artifact. Although Yuhi's wooden shuttle was not a high-grade artifact, it wasn't a low-quality item either. She also had a cultivation of the 6th order open heaven realm, so it would not be a problem for them to pass through the territory gate. In a matter of breaths, the swirling territory gate was right in front of them, and the wooden shuttle rushed straight in. Even before the slight feeling of dizziness could pass, the three of them were already in another great territory. Before Yang Kai had the time to check the situation around them, he heard Yuhi cry out, "Young master, look out." The next moment, a great sense of crisis overwhelmed them. Violent world force burst out. The wooden shuttle burst into pieces, sending Old Bai flying with a trail of blood behind him. Fresh damage was added to his already seriously injured body. Yang Kai also felt uncomfortable, but he was well protected by Yu He and did not suffer any kind of serious injury. Yu He, on the other hand, was bleeding from the corner of her lips and had obviously been wounded. Yang Kai's face was instantly filled with rage. He could guess that his void land had to be littered with the prying eyes of outsiders, so he hid in the Fated Paths bag and asked Wei Ke to take him, Yu He and Old Bai out quietly. He did think that the road ahead would be thorny, but he never anticipated being intercepted as soon as they left void territory. The person who attacked was extremely decisive and had obviously determined that they would emerge from this territory gate. Thus, the enemy did not hesitate to bombard them with their divine ability. Yu He and Old Bai were caught unprepared, plus they had just passed through the territory gate and were still a little disoriented, leading to them suffering a big loss. Looking up, Yang Kai saw two people, an old man and a young man, standing in the void. The old man had a crane-like face and looked hearty, full of energy. Cold light flashed through the slits of his long and narrow eyes as he squinted them. The young man looked like he was only a teenager, but the aura he was emitting showed that it was absolutely impossible for him to be a mere youth. Both the old man and the teenager were in the 6th order open heaven realm. One of them was holding a wooden branch with lightning flashing out of it, while the other was carrying a copper rod, which looked rather out of place. The young man with the copper rod smiled at the three of them and fixed his gaze on Yang Kai before asking warmly, "Voidland's Yang Kai?" Yang Kai shouted angrily, "It is this king." "Who are you? Announce your names." The young man smiled. "You're young, but your tone is filled with arrogance. On the other hand, although your strength is low, you have managed to stir up the entire 3,000 worlds. so you are qualified to know the name of this monarch. After saying so, he cupped his fist while holding the copper rod in a backhand grip, and declared, Heavenly Sword Union's Union Master, Xinliang. The old man, while holding the wooden branch behind his back and putting one hand on his chest, said indifferently, Vice Union Master Jiang Yunshan. Heavenly Sword Union? Yang Kai raised his brow and said coldly, Heavenly Sword Union has lost their Union Master not long ago. But two more have now popped up? Haven't you people had enough yet? Xinliang chuckled. You mean Kong Feng? If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have forgotten. This monarch must thank you for killing that old dog. Otherwise, how would this Xin have been able to become the current Union Master? Though, while I am thankful to you, I still have to take revenge. No matter what, Kong Feng was the previous Union Master, and he was killed at your hands. Since I am the new Union Master, I can't just ignore this slight. Therefore, I am here today to take your head. I advise you to not resist. Otherwise, it will be very unpleasant. Yang Kai grunted. Since I can kill a Kong Feng, I can naturally kill you. If you want to die, just try it. While speaking, he urgently sent a voice transmission to you. Try to hold them back for a while. We can't win this fight, so we need to find a way to escape. Two sixth-order open heaven realm masters had come at once, and only Yuhi could contend with them. Old Bai was definitely no match for them, not to mention himself. It was a fight they would definitely lose. The only way for them to have any chance of survival was to use Yang Kai's space secret techniques to escape. Yuhi understood and gave a nod. Xun Liang laughed lightly. You are truly a brat who doesn't fear the heavens. No wonder you dare to act like that. Come, come, come. Let this monarch dig your heart out to see how big it really is. Saying so, the copper rod in his hand smashed down. Even though it was just the slash of a rod, it felt as if the whole world was crashing down. The terrifying world force tumbled down, making both the heavens and the earth shake. At the same time, Jiang Yunshan also struck with the wooden branch in his hand, which caused lightning to appear and turn into thousands of thunder swords, each thunder sword containing an abundant amount of world force. Old Bai roared with strong spirit. The power of the fifth order open heaven realm poured out, transforming into a sky of fist shadows which clashed with the thunder swords. Yuhi summoned a vase with several flower branches in it, each branch with a flower bud on it. She took out a flower branch and shook it. In an instant, flowers filled the sky, gently flying all over the place. Each flower petal was like the world's sharpest blade, able to cut even space. The main reason why there was a huge gap between the strength of a newly advanced Open Heaven Realm Master and an old Open Heaven Realm Master was the difference in accumulation in their small universes. There was also a huge difference in the quality of the artifacts that they possessed. Even if the artifacts one possessed before they advanced to the Open Heaven Realm was exceptional, they would not be useful after they broke through. The chasm between the Emperor Realm and the Open Heaven Realm was just too great. Thus, one had to find someone to refine new artifacts or buy new ones that were suitable for their new Open Heaven Realm cultivation. Artifacts of the Open Heaven Realm were graded on the same scale as the Open Heaven Realm itself. Yang Kai was something of an exception, as even though he had not advanced to the Open Heaven Realm yet, he had a powerful weapon like the Azure Dragon Spear in his hands. Thus, he need not pay much attention to this. However, after the 100 Sex Alliance invaded Voidland, Yang Kai began paying closer attention to Open Heaven Realm artifacts. This couldn't be helped. There were too many new Open Heaven Realm Masters in Voidland, and their base strength couldn't be raised in a short period of time. After all, it took time to strengthen one's foundation. Thus, if he wanted to immediately raise their combat power, he had to use external means like artifacts. When the 100 Sex Alliance attacked, Mo was pitted against Wan by Feng and ended up being completely outclassed. Of course, the biggest reason was because she had just broken through and her foundation was still unstable, but there was another matter as well, which was that she lacked suitable artifacts to assist her. Thus, she ended up having to use her bare hands to fight. If she had an artifact that suited her current cultivation at that time, the situation would have been much better. As such, after the Star City was rebuilt and developed, Yang Kai asked Bian Yuqing to allocate a large amount of money to purchasing artifacts for Voidland's Open Heaven Realm Masters. Furthermore, with the many spoils obtained after the battle, Many of Voidland's new Open Heaven Realm Masters could now exert much greater power than they were able to at that time. The vase in Yuhi's hands was worth 40 million Open Heaven pills. It was an artifact meant for those in the Sixth Order Open Heaven Realm. The artifacts used by Open Heaven Realm Masters were all capable of channeling and augmenting world force, which were incomparable to the artifacts used by cultivators below the Open Heaven Realm. Flower petals flew amidst the sky that was filled with flowers in the void, which made Xinliang and Jiang Yunshan lose all sense of direction. How could they find Yang Kai and the others when the only thing they could sense around them were colorful flower petals and chilling murderous intent? It was almost as if they were trapped in a sealed world. Hurriedly, both of them used secret techniques to try and break out of the trap, which caused shockwaves and endless rumbles to sound. "Let's go!" Yang Kai shouted without hesitation when he saw that the two of them were trapped, immediately wrapping Yuhi and Old Bai in his space principles to escape. The next moment, Yang Kai's expression changed greatly. The space around them seemed to have turned into a cage, locking them in place, making it impossible to flee. "We're trapped." Yang Kai's face was gloomy. This feeling seemed familiar. Instantly, a person's figure popped up in his mind, which caused him to grit his teeth and shout, "Luan Baifeng!" When the Hundred Sex Alliances invaded Voidland, Luan Baifeng had been there to help Kong Feng. This woman was extremely proficient in the Tao of Spirit Arrays. If there was anyone that could seal a local region of space so quickly and quietly, it was her. When Kong Feng was captured, that woman resolutely fled. Yang Kai thought she had gone back to Black Prison, but unexpectedly, she was here. In other words, this time they were not facing off against two Sixth Order Open Heaven Realm Masters, but three. He. Luan Baifeng's figure suddenly appeared, along with a charming laugh. She spoke while playfully looking at Yang Kai. "Little boy, you have a good head on your shoulders. You could even guess that this queen was also here. Then guess again, will you be able to leave alive this time?" Yang Kai glared at her. "Luan Baifeng, my Voidland and your Black Prison have no grudges or enmity. Why do you keep coming to provoke trouble again and again?" Yang Kai felt hatred surging within him. If it wasn't for this woman, he could have taken Yuhi and Old Bai away with his instantaneous movement. But this woman had sealed off that possibility, making him unable to escape with his space principles. Luan Baifeng flicked her jade-like finger and said with a smile, "We really do have no grievances, but this queen is short of our slaves and is very interested in your Open Heaven Realm Masters. How about this? Give me all the Open Heaven Realm Masters in your Voidland. Then I will spare your life. How about it? In your dreams?" Yang Kai ground his teeth and roared, "If I don't die today, I swear to crush your Black Prison one day." Luan Baifeng put her hands on her chest and delicately said, "I'm afraid of men with such big tempers." Hong. When the boundless rain of flower petals broke apart, two figures appeared. It was Xinliang and Jiang Yunshan, who were trapped by Yuhi before. Glancing at Luan Baifeng, Xinliang snorted coldly and asked, "Why are you talking so much nonsense?" "Kill them first." Luan Baifeng said smilingly, "This queen is a gentle woman. Although I am capable of bullying the weak, it is not something I am willing to do. Helping you trap them is the limit of what this queen will do this time. If you want to kill them, do it yourself. I'll just watch from the sidelines." Saying so, she actually took a few steps back. Xinliang snorted coldly without worry and ordered, "You take care of Yuhi, this monarch will kill that brat." Jiang Yunshan replied, "Good." A thunderous beam of lightning headed towards Yuhi with a single swing of the branch in his hand. Right when he did so, Yang Kai shouted, "Zhu Jiuyin. Until when do you plan to wait?" As soon as Yang Kai said so, Xinliang and the others' faces changed dramatically. Xinliang, who was about to rush towards Yuhi, immediately assumed a defensive stance, his eyes darting around as he pushed his divine sense wildly. Luan Baifeng also froze while Jiang Yunshan directly summoned a defensive artifact to protect himself. Before the Hundred Sex Alliances fought against Voidland, no one took Voidland seriously, and no one even considered the possibility that there could be two mature divine spirits hidden in this puny second-class force. After that battle, though, Zhu Jiuyin's origins were made clear. Yang Kai left Voidland this time seemingly followed by only Yuhi and Bai Qi, however, who knew whether he had any hidden backup like Zhu Jiuyin or Bai Shi. The reason why Luan Baifeng did not attack just now was because she was afraid that Zhu Jioyin was hiding nearby. Thus, as soon as they heard Yang Kai shout the name Zhu Jioyin, the three of them acted as though they were facing a terrifying enemy. Taking this opportunity, Yu He and Old Bai, who had been secretly instructed by Yang Kai, struck out in unison, targeting a certain spot in the void. After the raging world force exploded 3 times, the imprisoned space suddenly loosened. Although Luan Baifeng had set up a heaven-sealing earth-locking array here, it was not very solid as she had to act quickly. Thus, Yu He and Old Bai could easily break through it by force. Luan Baifeng's pretty face turned red as she shouted, "It's a trick, stop them." Yang Kai turned his head around and sneered at her as he manipulated space principles once again. As long as he could escape from here, he was confident he would be able to get rid of Luan Baifeng and the others. When he first entered the 3,000 worlds, he was able to escape from the proprietress. Now that his strength was far greater, it would not be difficult for him to use his space beacons and space principles to escape from Luan Baifeng and the others. Suddenly, Yang Kai's expression became odd as he looked behind Luan Baifeng in a daze. The next moment, his eyes lit up with pleasant surprise. Old Bai said anxiously, "Go! What are you doing?" Yang Kai grinned meaningfully, his tense expression suddenly becoming completely relaxed. Luan Baifeng, however, shivered violently, because at that moment, a cold aura appeared behind her. It was as if a poisonous snake had climbed up to the back of her neck and gently hissed into her ear. "Your name is Luan Baifeng?" A voice suddenly sounded from behind her. Luan Baifeng's body jolted, and the full might of her 6th order open heaven realm cultivation burst out along with a roar. She struck behind her with the back of her palm, which, though hurried, still contained all her strength. Whipping her head around at the same time, she saw the face of the person standing behind her. Charming and enchanting, the person's heavenly beauty could topple kingdoms. Even though Luan Baifeng was a woman herself, she could not help but be moved when she saw her. Divine Spirit, Heavenly Moon Demon Spider, Zhu Jioyin. This turned out to be a trick disguised as another trick. When she saw Yang Kai rushing to escape, she thought that the boy was just trying to distract her. However, who knew that Zhu Jioyin was really nearby and at some point had snuck up behind her. Facing Luan Baifeng's attack, Zhu Jioyin just gently slapped away her palm. This casual slap held the power of a mature divine spirit though, and the sound of bones cracking rang out as Luan Baifeng was sent flying like a paper kite without a string. Fresh blood sprayed from her lips as she tumbled uncontrollably. A 6th order open heaven master was as weak as a 3-year-old child in front of Zhu Jioyin. Zhu Jioyin did not pause. Her whole body seemed to not move at all, yet somehow still managed to catch up to Luan Baifeng. With a flip of her hair, each strand turned into a poisonous snake. There, a group of thousands of snakes opened their mouths, hissing endlessly as they bit towards Luan Baifeng. Zheng zheng. Ethereal music sounded at that moment as if someone was plucking a zither in the void. Yang Kai did not know when, but a woman with a breathtakingly beautiful face had appeared. Her white arms and calves were exposed with a pinkish tinge dyeing them. She sat cross-legged in the void, a zither before her and a sweet smile on her face. With a single move of her delicate hand, sound waves that were visible to the naked eye turned into sharp knives, heading towards Zhang Yunshan. Yang Kai turned his head to look, and exclaimed with widened eyes, "Senior Sister Chu!" In truth, he really did just shout Zhu Jioyin's name to distract Luan Baifeng and the others to take advantage of their lapse in attention and create an opportunity to escape. Who knew that his words would be prophetic and Zhu Jioyin would really appear? His cultivation had not yet reached such a state where his words would become law, whereby the world would follow it. Thus, Zhu Jioyin had only shown up because she had been secretly following him to protect him. His attempt in deception not only fooled Luan Baifeng and the others, but also Zhu Jioyin herself. When Yang Kai went to Zhu Jioyin and asked for her help, she had firmly refused. He thought that she would really not assist him this time, so it was a pleasant surprise to learn she had actually followed him in secret. This warmed Yang Kai's heart. No matter what the reason may be, Zhu Jioyin did follow him in the end. Not only did Zhu Jioyin follow him, but Chu Huashang had also tagged along. Inyang Cave Heaven had opened a Tao temple in Void Star City to attract young talents from all over the world to discuss the Tao. This Tao temple was the reason Chu Huashang had been present in Void Star City for the past few years. She had even visited Voidland numerous times. It was just that this time Yang Kai had not informed her about this incident and he did not know why she had come here with Zhu Jiuyin. Zhu Jiuyin was now equivalent to a peak 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master. Meanwhile, Chu Huashang was in the 6th Order Open Heaven Realm. With the two of them joining the battle, the roles of hunter and prey had instantly been flipped. The melody of the zither was soul-stirring, forcing Jiang Yunshan to retreat again and again. Jiang Yunshan was definitely stronger than Chu Huashang in terms of raw strength. After all, it had not been long since Chu Huashang had advanced to the Open Heaven Realm. Thus, even with the artifacts given to her by her sect, it would be difficult for her to make up for the gap brought by the difference in their foundation. However, when Zhu Jiuyin appeared, Jiang Yunshan was also momentarily distracted and had to divert part of his attention to monitor her. Thus, for a while, he was caught off guard and greatly affected by Chu Huashang's sound attack. Meanwhile, there was another enemy remaining, Shen Liang, who was still watching. He decisively held a flower and swept it towards Shen Liang. The flower petals filling the void trapped him again. Violent sounds came out of the storm of petals, but Shen Liang was unable to escape in short order.